It is 5 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A traffic report and a weather forecast are mere moments away. President Donald Trump touting the, quote, great deal, unquote, that he made with Iran. The president claiming it will bring peace and security to the entire region. We hear now from ABC's Karen Wah. She's in D.C.
Trump saying that he ordered the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade on Iranian ports. He says the strait will reopen entirely and toll-free after the deal is signed later this week, saying, ships of the world, start your engines. Let the oil flow. Iranian officials confirming the deal, which is set to be signed in Switzerland on Friday. Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to attend.
Federal investigators back here in the U.S., they begin work today at the scene of a deadly skydiving plane crash in Missouri. 11 skydivers and the pilot were all killed when the plane went down. It happened shortly after taking off from the Butler Memorial Airport. That's about 65 miles south of Kansas City. Local officials say there's no evidence of any criminal activity or terrorism. Here's ABC's Sophie Flay.
The small skydiving plane was carrying 9 experienced skydivers, 2 tandem jumpers, and a pilot. A man who wants to remain anonymous says his son was on the plane.
He's probably got four or 500 jumps, and he's just something he'd love to do, and just never start the morning thinking you're going to die.
It remains unclear what caused the plane to crash. The company operating the flight, Skydive Kansas City, says it's cooperating with local and federal authorities.
On Saturday, Nara Organics recalled its organic baby formula. It is sold online and nationwide in Target stores. They recalled it after a multi-state outbreak of infant botulism. 3 babies between 2 and 5 months became sick in April and May in California, Pennsylvania, and Washington after they consumed the Nara Organics whole milk organic powdered infant formula. It's sold again in Target stores and at nara.com. That's NARA.com. Symptoms include constipation, poor feeding, drooping eyelids, weak muscle tone, difficulty swallowing, and breathing problems, among other symptoms. The CDC recommends that anyone with an open can take a picture of it, record the lot number and use by date, and watch their infants for symptoms. Let's go ahead and check our stock numbers before the opening bell. These numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. They're online at beaconcm.com. Dow futures up 413, the S&P up 86, and the NASDAQ up a whopping 566. That's the latest news. Traffic is next, along with some weather. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. Starting off our work week in fine shape on Nashville area roadways at 5:05 this morning. No accidents, no breakdowns to report. I'm Jay Harper.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You probably figured out right away that this is not the voice of Dan Mandis. Dan Mandis is off. I am Brian Wilson, your friend and retired radio buddy, out of retirement for a few days. I'll be here filling in for Dan all the way through Thursday. So glad to be with you here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. As I have mentioned in the past, that I really love the opportunities to get on the air in retirement and occasionally, get some things off my chest, because the French Bulldogs, are absolutely getting really tired of my rants. So glad to be with you. Settle in. We've got a lot of stuff to cover here this morning. Throughout the course of the morning, we'll be talking about midterm elections. We'll be talking about the latest from the swamp. There's some economic news, but a lot to talk about with regard to the topic of illegal immigration and even UAPs. We'll get into all of that, but I got to start this morning with the fact that apparently we have a deal with Iran. I mean, that's what it sounds like. It nearly came unglued again, but apparently we have a deal. And according to the Vice President of the United States, who went on Fox News yesterday, it's a good deal for the American people. Here is J.D. Vance talking about the deal, what has been struck.
Well, first of all, I do think it's a big moment for the United States of America, thanks, of course, to the President's leadership and the hard work of the entire team. Three things that I think are important for the American people just to appreciate about what this deal does for all of us as Americans. Number one, this is the immediate opening of the Straits of Hormuz and, of course, the lifting of the naval blockade that we've had on Iran along with it. The number two thing that it means is that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, and not just pursue a nuclear weapon, but procure or try to buy a nuclear weapon as well. That's built into this agreement. And then the third thing is, and this only happens, to be clear, if Iran delivers on their promise. And so there's an approach here where we verify and where there are real benefits so long as Iran meets their end of the obligation. But if the Iranians comply with this deal, it is going to fundamentally transform the Middle East for the next 50 years. It's going to end the war. It's going to make the Middle East more investable. It's going to mean a lot of prosperity, lower energy prices for the American people. This region of the world has been a basket case for my entire life and longer than that. And what the president has really set us to do is to certainly eliminate the nuclear threat of Iran. That's done. But now possibly to build to a new era of Middle East prosperity and success, where it's not a region of the world where the United States has to worry about so much, but where, frankly, we can generate a lot of prosperity for the American people out of that region. That's a very, very big win, and it all happened because the president stuck with it.
Well, there you go, J.D. Vance touting with Fox News this deal. It is not signed. They're talking about perhaps signing it this coming weekend in Switzerland. I don't know. We'll see what's going on. The president's going to be traveling for a G7 summit. But apparently they were within hours of signing it when Iran and Israel exchanged volleys, and that did not go over well with the president of the United States. Let's dig into this a little bit. Here what we go. The U.S. and Iran, according to Reuters and CNBC, have agreed on a deal to bring their nearly 4-month war to an end, with both sides declaring the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon, Pakistan. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has said. There we go. Following intensive talks, we are pleased to announce that the peace deal between the U.S. and the Islamic Republic of Iran has been reached. Pakistan, as you know, served as the mediator between the two countries. The official signing will be Friday, June 19th, 4 days from now in Switzerland. U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed that a deal has been reached after the prime minister's announcement. In a post on Truth Social, the president said the deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. And then he added, I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously herewith authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade. So, later, he said that he would the strait would open up on Friday with the opening of the strait. Iran's Supreme National Security Council. See, this is important because sometimes what you hear from the Trump administration and what you're hearing from Iran was do different things. Trump kept saying it's we've almost got it. It's just around the corner. We're very close, and Iran was not saying anything. Now, Iran's Supreme National Security Council affirmed Sunday that Tehran had finalized a memorandum of understanding saying all military operations on all fronts, including Lebanon, would cease immediately and permanently. The naval blockade against Iran would be lifted immediately, according to the statement in Persian. Iranian state media had broadcast a television. This is how they sell it. You see, this is the thing. The people inside Iran, they know that this is, not true, but this is the way they play it on Iranian state media. They broadcast a television banner, one of those lower third crawls, declaring that the U.S. had been, quote, forced to sign an agreement to end the war. This, according to the Associated Press. Iranian state TV also said that the Iranian Foreign Ministry holds the U.S. and Israel responsible for the dangerous consequences of the continued insecurity and tension in the region. The region likes it. Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Qatar said in a statement that it welcomes the agreement, which includes measures to ensure freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, you're talking about 20% of the oil and natural gas in the world has to pass through that narrow Strait of Hormuz. It's a 30-mile wide gap, and the Iranians had tried to lay mines, and we put up a blockade. Basically, it was always in the United States' interest and the interest of the world and the interest of Iran to get the Strait of Hormuz open. So it's amazing that hasn't happened before now, because they can't make any money in Iran as long as the Strait of Hormuz is closed. So there you have it. The deal, this is interesting, and this is where Trump he was mad about this. The deal was put into risk earlier Sunday after the Israeli Defense Forces said Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon had launched projectiles into Iran. Subsequent Israeli strikes in Beirut prompted condemnation from Trump, who warned Iran and Hezbollah not to strike back. Trump asked both sides to, quote, not blow it. The Strait of Hormuz is a critical shipping route in the Mideast. This is according to CNBC, of course, you know that. Been effectively closed since the conflict began in late February. Inflation has been a problem. Gas prices are causing all that. We'll get into that in a very few moments. Let me see if I got another take here. Wall Street Journal, U.S. and Iran have reached a deal to stop fighting and reopen shipping, signing a plan for this coming Friday, marking a potential breakthrough in the war that has roiled the global economy. Iran and the U.S. have agreed on an interim peace deal. A deal set to be signed Friday. President Trump and Pakistani negotiators said. Trump had earlier indicated he hoped a deal would be signed this past Sunday. Neither side provided a specific list of agreed-upon details in the deal. So we got the government of Tehran confirming it. We got the Trump administration confirming it. We've got the Pakistanis confirming it. And we've got people in the region who seem to have been briefed, and they're very happy. So it sounds like the deal is real. However, it has not yet been signed. And anything can happen in the last few moments. And there are going to be elements within Iran who want to stir the pot. They will try to get the proxies to strike at Israel. They'll try to get Israel to, they're going to do this. But when it happened, just moments, somebody was trying to blow up the deal. with this attack from Hezbollah into Israel. And Israel, Trump got so upset with Israel for responding. I don't blame Israel for responding, quite frankly. You strike us, we're going to strike you back. But it came at a very sensitive time, and it came because somebody was trying to mess up the deal. Here's what we know about the deal between the United States and Israel that made Trump so mad. President Trump tells Axios the U.S.-Iran deal to end the war is still on track for Sunday, despite Israel's strike in Beirut and the Iranian threat to retaliate. Why it matters, the president racing to save a deal that nearly collapsed the moment Israel struck Beirut, leaning on private diplomacy and public messaging to get it signed. Iranian officials, of course, that's out-of-date information. It shook it up. It delayed the signing by a few hours. It was supposed to be now. Now it's scheduled for a few hours from now, Trump has said in a phone call. Now we're talking about it being ready to go this coming Friday. Trump said he was shocked when his advisors called to brief him about the Israeli strike in Beirut, and he fumed. He apparently dropped the F-bomb on Netanyahu. It is so bad, I couldn't believe it an hour before we're supposed to sign the deal. Trump acknowledged Hezbollah attacked Israel first, but stressed it didn't cause any damage. Nobody had been killed. Why did Bibi have to do a effing attack? I'm so PO'd. I let him know. He has no effing judgment. You get the sense he's not happy. And I let him know that. It wasn't immediately clear if Trump received any direct assurance from Tehran that the signing remains on track. So I think that for some of that information is a little out of date. But nonetheless, here we have it. Did it take longer than expected? Yes. Did it hurt the economy? Yeah, absolutely, it hurt our economy. Anytime gas prices go up, it sort of ripples through the entire economy in a big way. I talked about this all the time during the Biden years when inflation was at 9.1%. Inflation right now about 4.2% in this country. So yes, we took a hit. Ideally, you want your inflation to stay at about 2%. So we're not way out of bounds, and certainly the correction is coming. This was a sacrifice for the American people. And, it was a sacrifice politically for Republicans and conservatives and this president and his agenda. Because when prices of gasoline goes up, it is noticed. It is the one thing that if your gas prices go down, most people are going to pick that up, and it's going to frame how they look at the economy. So much of the economic news that we have, it seems to be very positive, but when your gas prices are up, and that ripples through the economy. For example, everything that goes to market, all your goods, all your services, your fruits, your vegetables, whatever it is, it all takes some kind of fuel, either gas or diesel or electricity, to deliver. And so it does ripple through the economy, but it has not rippled. It's not out of control. And, even though we've had to sacrifice and Americans have had to pay more for gas, they got used to that $2.75 a gallon gas, and they don't like it when gasoline prices have gone up. Now, where are we on gas prices? Where are we likely to be? What's happening with the markets? And what's the reaction to all this economically? We'll get into that in just a few moments. Right now, let's call it 20 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Brian Wilson in for Dan Mandis.
Coming up at the bottom of the hour, more on the Iranian peace deal. We'll get reaction from Washington. Also, the Fed's concerned about a popular AI platform. We'll explain what that's about. That's all coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is 24 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you are enjoying this lovely weather. We had some rain. It looks like we're going to have some rain this week. High today of around 77 degrees, currently 61. Rain returns. We got a breaker here, I think. This is for the next day or two. And then rain returns on Wednesday. Boy, we went a long time without rain, and now it seems that's all we got. So we're continuing, to move into this discussion of what happens with Iran now that we have a deal. And of course, you know what it really means. What you really care about is, what does this mean for your gas prices? Well, the good news is as I told you it would, and it's still falling almost by the minute. Oil prices are coming down. I mean, this is all supply and demand stuff. It's pretty basic economics. When you take 20% of oil and gas out of the global market, then there's less gas. And when there's less of something, then the cost goes up. When there's a surplus of something, the cost comes down. Right now, West Texas Intermediate crude selling for $13 a barrel. $80 a barrel, basically, for West Texas Intermediate crude. Brent crude selling for $82 a barrel. It was not but just a few days ago that this was well above $100. So when the price of oil comes down, there will be a time where the price of gasoline and diesel will come down, and you'll see that very soon. So where are we on gasoline prices nationwide? Average price for a gallon of gas nationwide is $4.06 a gallon. Tennessee doing, on average, much better than that. A gallon of gas on average in the state of Tennessee, the volunteer state, goes for $3.60 a gallon. And I'm completely, again, surprised by this, truly surprised by this. Here is, in Wilson County, where I'm at right now, here in Wilson County, on average, a gallon of gas costs you $3.47. If you go to Davidson County, just across the line, it's 22 cents more a gallon on average, $3.69 a gallon. And if you go to Williamson County, it's $4.09 a gallon. In other words, the difference between a gallon of gas in Wilson County and Williamson County is 62 cents a gallon. It's going to cost you 62 cents more a gallon in Williamson County to fill up your tank. And let me just pull up my handy dandy phone calculator and just do a quick thing here. 0.62 times 20. That means that on average, to fill up your tank in Williamson County cost you $12.40 more than it would in Wilson County. Why is that? I don't understand that at all. I don't understand what makes that happen. But, that's just the fact of the matter. I mean, of course, it doesn't make a lot of sense for people in Williamson County to drive all the way over to Wilson County to fill up your tank. Maybe it does for $12. I don't know. I can't imagine anybody who would live in Wilson County and then drive to Williamson on a daily basis. I can't imagine that. So anyway, all told, things looking pretty good there in the gas situation, and it will come down dramatically, and we will see inflation start to come down. What I have said from the very beginning is if we can get a deal, and if the deal holds, and if we don't have to reopen hostilities with Iran, and that's always a possibility because they will lie and they will cheat and they'll try to do everything, and Trump may have to go back in and bop them on the nose again to get them to straighten up. But one way or the other, we are going to see prices come down, and I think there will be a peaceful period of prosperity between now and the midterm elections. We've got time. Really, I think Newt Gingrich got it right And I'll talk about this more in the next hour. But I think Newt Gingrich got it right when he said that, at whatever gas prices are on Labor Day, that will give you a good idea of what's likely to happen in the midterm elections. So there you have it. Coming up, big event on the White House lawn. Oh my gosh, there was wrestling and there were jets flying over, and I'm telling you, people were just focused on it on Trump's 80th birthday. We'll talk about the Trump event, and even though there's been some criticism, you may be surprised to know that there's been an awful lot of weird things that they've done on the White House lawn over the years. This doesn't even come close to being the weirdest. We'll get into all of that and so much more. Brian Wilson in for Dan Mandis. Time for the news right now with Jay Harper.
It's 5:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A traffic report and a weather forecast are coming up. President Donald Trump touting the, quote, great deal that he made with Iran. The president claiming it will bring peace and security to the region. ABC's Karen Hua, she's in D.C.
News of the deal, sending Brent crude down more than $3 a barrel. The national gas average is now $3.99 a gallon, below $4 for the first time since April. The U.S. burned through much of its emergency oil stockpile, trying to keep prices down during the war. Now on track for its lowest level since 1983, leaving little cushion left if this deal falls apart.
Anthropic says it has taken its newest AI models offline following a Trump administration directive to ban their use by foreigners. ABC's Selena Wang, she's on the Start Here podcast explaining things.
It was just days ago that Anthropic rolled out this highly anticipated model, their most powerful one ever, a whole new tier they've named Mythos Class, with a public-facing version called Fable 5. But then on Friday, Anthropic says the U.S. government stepped in, that the government issued what's called an export control directive, telling Anthropic it couldn't let any foreign national access these new models, citing national security, but not giving detail on what those concerns were, according to Anthropic.
Back here in Tennessee, the TBI, they're looking into an apparent double homicide after 2 children were found dead and their mother was critically injured Saturday in Obion County. According to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, agents were called in to assist the Kenton Police Department and the Obion County Sheriff's Office with the investigation. Authorities say they responded to a home on Saturday where they found 1-year-old Landry Harris and 11-year-old McKenna Young dead from apparent gunshot wounds. Investigators said the children's mother was also found at the home. She had been stabbed. She was taken to Regional 1 in Memphis, where she remains in critical condition. Officials have not announced any arrests or identified a suspect in this ongoing investigation. That is the latest news, traffic, weather. They're coming up. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. At 37 minutes past 5 a.m., still all clear on Nashville area roadways. No accidents or breakdowns currently being reported. I'm Jay Harper.
It is 37 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, in for Dan Mandis, who will return next week. I'll be here all the way through Thursday. So, good to be with you through the morning. So, the only thing that's rough about this is that 2:45 a.m. wake-up call. But we, enough coffee and a 5-hour energy drink, and I'll get through all of that. So I hope you're having a good day. Again, the big news is Iran. We have a deal, apparently, that will be signed this coming Friday in Switzerland. We were very close, apparently, to having the deal signed this past weekend. And then the Iran exchange, its proxy exchange with launching missiles from Hezbollah into Israel sort of, messed things up there. Look, I would just warn you one other thing about that before we move on. I would not be surprised if this deal falls apart. I mean, there are a lot of disparate elements within Iran who don't like the deal at all, and they have access to all kinds of weaponry that can cause problems. And I think within Iran right now, there's a left hand and a right hand, and neither knows what the other is doing. So we're still walking a tightrope here, but everybody says there's a deal. Everybody signed off on it, so we're going to cross our fingers and hope that we are through the worst of it. It was the 80th birthday of our President of the United States, and at the White House, as you probably know, there was a big cage match. There was they were doing some big-time wrestling there on the White House lawn. Had the octagon set up and the big claw, which was a massive lighting grid that was put in. Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. It's catching a lot of flack. A lot of people think, this is undignified. We shouldn't be having this at the White House. Here's what I'll give you the basics on it from the Wall Street Journal. Blood, sweat, and corporate sponsors. Trump hosts White House cage fight. The UFC event held on the president's 80th birthday brought in VIPs and a lot of corporate sponsors. President Trump hosted a cage match at the White House on Sunday, turning the historic South Lawn into a sporting arena where fighters pummeled each other, surrounded by paid advertisements and the thousands of fans. Let's see. The White House was a main character at the event. Shortly before 8:30 p.m., cameras trained on Trump as he departed the Oval Office alongside White and walked to the White House balcony overlooking the scene. Fighters were filmed strutting through the hallways of the White House before they entered the octagon. The UFC set up a locker room for the fighters in the historic Eisenhower Executive Office building nearby. It's right next door to the White House, the old Executive Office building. The event took place on Trump's 80th birthday. At the start of the fight, the man in the crowd shouted at the president, "Happy birthday." Secretary of State Marco Rubio described the cage match as a gift to the American people. The event was streamed on Paramount Plus. Sam, you said you saw it, right? You watched the whole thing, right?
I watched about halfway through for all the big names to the co-main event and the title fight main event. And it was a phenomenal production from top to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, it was slickly done. There's no doubt about that. And I mean, it's just that a lot of people, look at it and say, "Is this what we want on our White House lawn?" Well, that's a great question. Let me share for you some of the weird, wacky things that have happened on the White House lawn over the years. This is from RealClearPolitics.com. Written by Carolina Lumetta. White House lawn adds UFC arena to its colorful history. Towering above the White House, the 92-foot-tall claw hovering above the fight ring is taller than the executive mansion. It was huge. Scaffolding under the mixed martial arts arena holds roughly 4,000 feet. The octagon itself is bedecked with ads from corporate sponsors. Blah, 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 blah. Sunday's Ultimate Fighting Championship match will be unlike any previous presidential party, but and there it is. It's not unusual for presidents to bring their personal hobbies and interests to the White House grounds. Since the mansion's construction, there has never been a single purpose for the South Lawn, and every president has had different ideas on how to use his backyard. I'm going to share some of them with you. You ready? So if you hear criticism, just, listen to some of the things that have happened on the South Lawn in the history of America, some 250 years now. John Adams planted a vegetable garden. Thomas Jefferson was the first to put up a stone wall around it to keep the animals out and added gardens. President Andrew Jackson was a fan of citrus and built an orangery. Basically, he had a grove of orange trees at the White House, which President Franklin Pierce expanded into a greenhouse. President James Buchanan demolished the orangery. I didn't know they called that an orangery, to make space for the Treasury Department. So they got rid of the grove of orange trees and built the Treasury Department. U.S. Grant built a billiard room between the greenhouse and the mansion. You say, well, why would you do that? Why would you build a room for billiards? Well, apparently at the time, he was not allowed to bring what was considered an undignified game into the residence at the White House. White House has been, for many years, a place where the United States Marine Band played weekly concerts. That happened even back in the time of Lincoln. The Johnson administration, the Lincolns began the informal practice of inviting children for the Easter egg roll on the lawn. President Rutherford B. Hayes made it a tradition. The Johnson administration brought a Ferris wheel to the White House South Lawn, offering rides on the wheel and the pony and the carousel. The Clinton administration brought the Ferris wheel back for members of the press and hosted carnival-style events for congressional and press events. There's a summer picnic that takes place, three of them actually, generally take place at the White House. One is for White House staff. One is for congressional leaders and members of Congress. And then there's one that they throw for the White House press corps, generally. Trump also used the carousel and a Ferris wheel for an annual congressional picnic during his first term. Now, there's more. President Jimmy Carter installed a temporary ice ring on the South Lawn so that Peggy Fleming could perform for the White House, first family and guests. President Ronald Reagan invited the Beach Boys to perform because this came after his Secretary of the Interior had banned rock bands. We can't have those crazy rock bands. I mean, what do you know? They'll be biting the heads off of bats and stuff, right there on the National Mall. No, the Beach Boys never did that. The band was invited to come to the White House by the Reagans. They were big fans of the Beach Boys and invited them to play at the White House. A lot of family pets have been kept on that lawn. Tad and Willie Lincoln had pet goats. The Coolidge family had a pet raccoon named Rebecca. The raccoon was a Thanksgiving gift from a supporter, and the family decided to domesticate it. He had a specially built treehouse on the South Lawn. During the Woodrow Wilson administration, a flock of sheep lived on grounds. As the permanent law mowers, after most of the groundskeeping staff left to serve in World War I. The wool was donated to the Red Cross. President George Bush launched White House T-Ball. National Park built a $30,000 running track on the South Lawn for President Bill Clinton's weekly runs, which he ended up not using very often. He liked to go instead to the National Mall and run roughly 3 times a week. President George W. Bush, when he came into office, he had that track paved over. Some administrations even merge the federal branches of government in the name of exercising good sport. President Herbert Hoover often convened members of the Supreme Court and his cabinet to play a mishmash of volleyball and tennis in a game he called Hoover Ball. And it wasn't even the first time that they'd had, fighting matches. The UFC event on Sunday isn't even the first time blood would be shed on the grounds. President Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy, held boxing matches on the grounds with anyone willing to go up against the commander-in-chief. The more I read about Teddy Roosevelt, the more fascinating I find him. The practice ended after an artillery captain punched the president so hard it detached his retina and left him blind in one eye. So there you have it. I mean, people are going to criticize the president. Of course, they're going to criticize him for anything that he does. Don't you know? That's just what it is. Washingtonians had complained about the claw and the beaming lights. At one point, apparently, a passing pilot filed a complaint saying that the lights were blinding him on his final approach to Reagan National. I don't know what they did about that, but one way or the other. And Trump is sort of, what he likes to do. He likes to, sort of jab people. He says, I like it so much, I may just keep the claw there. He said, you remember, the Eiffel Tower was supposed to be a temporary exhibition, and it's still there. So there you have it. It's over. It was a heck of a deal. Sam gave it his highest marks. He thought it was worth the time and definitely entertaining. And so there we have it, the beginning of the 250th anniversary celebration of this country. We've got all kinds of things that are going to be happening. This was sort of the kickoff to that. I think for me, the coolest thing was seeing the flyover of the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds together. When you put all of them together and put them in a flying, it's impressive to see those jets fly right down, Washington, D.C. and over the White House. And it was just a spectacular scene. All told, let's have some fun, I think. Let's celebrate what's going on in America with our 250th anniversary. And if you're among those who say, well, this shouldn't be happening on the White House lawn, my question is, well, what do you have to say about all the other things that have happened on the White House lawn? Presidents, it's their house. They get to do with it as they wish. And it was quite the event there at the White House. And on that note, it is 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
So, what does Israel think of the announced U.S.-Iranian peace deal? We'll have details. Also, an infant formula recall. We'll get those stories to you coming up at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
54 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Brian Wilson in for Dan Mandis all this week, or at least all the way through Thursday. And we're talking about the beginning, the kickoff to the 250th anniversary celebration that's taking place in Washington, D.C., and with the big UFC fight and the claw on the White House lawn. Quite an event, actually. But where are Americans, and how do Americans feel about America as we approach our 250th anniversary? Over at NBC, that's Steve Kornacki, who I really like. He really does pretty good chalk talk stuff about ratings and polling and that kind of stuff. He says that Americans have mixed emotions about America as we approach its 250th anniversary.
Take a look at this one. How proud are you to be an American, we asked, as we celebrate 250 years. So you see the different options here. Look, extremely proud, very proud. Those numbers together get you 56%. At the other end of it, only a little or not proud at all, 21%. The significance of this number is in decline. A steady 21st century decline. At the turn of the century, 3/4 of Americans were extremely or very proud. That number's fallen to 56%.
That's interesting. From 3/4 of Americans down to about a little more than half of Americans are proud of where we are as the country.
Behind this, it's familiar fault lines, Kristen, political, demographic. Check this out here. First, it's partisan. Look at this. Republicans are almost universally going to tell you extremely or very proud. Look at that number for Democrats. And meanwhile, only a little or not at all, 12 times as many Democrats say that compared to Republicans. We have talked about age here so many times. Yeah. Older Americans more likely to have that extremely proud feeling. Younger Americans much more ambivalent on this question. That's the state of the country. How about the major institutions that sort of undergird the country? Two ways to look at this. First of all, just take a look at these words. Great deal or quite a bit of trust and confidence in institutions. This is a very small list right here. Military is the only major institution that a majority of Americans have a great deal or quite a bit of confidence. You're probably looking at, look at this, very little or no confidence at all. Long list here in these institutions. The news media, Congress, federal government, religious organizations, Supreme Court. Over the last 20 years, these numbers are 20 or 30 points higher than they've been. Just deteriorating confidence. You can see a partisan divide a little bit on these two. Republicans much more distrustful of the media. Democrats extremely negative on the Supreme Court. And then, Kristen, just again, big picture here, asking folks about where we are going. Do our best days lie ahead of us, or are they behind us? Look at that number, almost 60% behind us. How about this question? How much has America achieved its founding ideals? 70% say a great deal or fair amount, only 29% not at all. And by the way, 50 years ago, the bicentennial, same question was asked. Numbers weren't too different. So big picture, looking back, we do feel good about where we've come.
There we go. I mean, 71%. That's about where we were at the bicentennial in 1976. And only 29% say they're not proud of what we have achieved and as a country. Look, Democrats have always been less patriotic than conservative and Republicans, and we are proud of our country. As you heard him say, 90% of Republicans say they are proud of where we are as a nation. 90% of Republicans. And it's the Democrats who are very dissatisfied with the state of play right now. That may have something to do with the fact with Republicans are in charge of the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court has a 6-3 conservative majority. So, it is a good time for conservatives politically, and a lot of things that conservatives care deeply about are being accomplished as much as they can be by the Trump administration. So you would expect them in a situation like that, Republicans to be a little more excited about what's going on in America than would be the Democrats. But the bottom line is that has always, I think, pretty much been the way it is. Republicans very much proud to be Americans. We're proud to be an American. Where at least we know we're free, right? So there you have it. We are going to be talking a lot about America, where we've been, where we're going, how Americans feel, and we'll talk about that as we approach this 250th anniversary. I'm sort of excited for it this year. I remember very distinctly, I was just a young reporter when we celebrated our 200th anniversary in 1976. And it's going to be great to see how we celebrate 50 years beyond that in the nation in the days ahead. Brian Wilson in for Dan Mandis, who will be back on Monday. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's time for the news with Jay Harper.
It is 6 p.m. or p.m. Yeah, I wish. It's 6 a.m. And I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Yeah, that'd be a heck of a story if it were 6 p.m. Anyway, we've got your full forecast and a traffic report coming up here in a little bit. President Donald Trump, he is touting the deal that he's made with Iran, but where does Israel fit into all this? ABC's Karen Hua is in D.C.
Israel, not a party to this plan, struck Iran-backed Hezbollah targets in Beirut Sunday, nearly derailing negotiations. At least 3 people were killed, 6 others injured. Former Israeli senior military intelligence officer Avner Valan telling us that he is doubtful Prime Minister Netanyahu would support the deal.
We've known the Iranians for many years. You don't really believe that the fact that they promised or they signed something is worth anything.
On Saturday, Nara Organics recalled its organic baby formula sold online and nationwide in Target stores after a multi-state outbreak of infant botulism. 3 babies between the ages of 2 and 5 months. They became ill in April and May in California, Pennsylvania, and Washington after consuming Nara Organics whole milk organic powdered infant formula, which is also sold on their website at nara.com. Symptoms include constipation, poor feeding, drooping eyelids, weak muscle tone, difficulty swallowing, and breathing problems. The CDC recommends that anybody that has opened a can of this stuff, take a picture of it, record the lot number and use by date, and watch their infants for symptoms. Market numbers. The report's brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. They're online at beaconcm.com. Here's Jim Ryan.
Stock futures surged overnight after President Trump posted on social media that an agreement had been reached to end the war between the U.S. and Iran. The Pakistani prime minister says a formal signing will happen Friday in Switzerland. The possibility that the Strait of Hormuz might fully reopen, unclogging a major oil source to the world, has pushed crude prices down. GasBuddy and AAA both have pump prices nationally hovering around $4 a gallon this morning. Surging consumer prices and rising inflation might actually have a silver lining for retirees. One independent Social Security and Medicare policy analyst expects next year's Social Security cost of living adjustment to rise by 4.7%. And some luxury watches are disappearing forever. Reuters says several models from brands like Omega and Tag Heuer are being melted down when they're sold. The gold in the watch is worth more than the watch itself.
Let's take a look at the stock futures now before the opening bell. The Dow's up 431, the S&P's up 92, and the NASDAQ, it is up 600. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather coming up. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. No accidents or breakdowns. Sometimes when I say that, I feel like I'm jinxing things, but so far, so good on Nashville area roadways. I'm Jay Harper.
Hey, good morning to you, everyone. Hour number 2 of Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis. I'm Brian Wilson filling in for Dan. He'll return next week. He's on the beach. He's out there soaking up the sun, got some sand in his toes, eating some good seafood. It's good to be Dan Mandis right now. Happy to be here with you. I'm in the bucolic Watertown, my studio here at home, and Sam's pushing the blinky buttons as he does so well. And we got Jay Harper in the newsroom, and that's because Joan's going to be filling in for Chris the rest of the week. I think that's the plan. So we're very excited. Everybody's here to make things go. I want to talk in this second hour a lot about the midterm elections, because now that we have this Iran thing apparently resolved, we need to turn attention to the midterms and see how that's all going to play out. First thing I want to talk about who is. Let's go beyond the midterms for a moment, and talk about who might be the presidential nominee for the Republicans in 28. Vice President J.D. Vance this weekend was asked about that, and he said that he and his wife Usha will decide after the midterm elections whether he will pursue the Republican presidential nomination in 28. Vance says he expects President Donald Trump to support whatever decision he ultimately makes regarding a possible White House run. I have no doubt that the President of the United States is going to be very supportive of anything that I ultimately decide to do. We just really haven't talked about that thing and what it will be. Vice President sought to downplay speculation about his political future, saying he's not actively weighing a presidential bid while continuing to carry out his vice presidential duties. And what are those? I'm not sitting around here trying to figure out if I'm going to run for president, he said. I mean, it's got to be either him or Rubio. And Rubio has said that if Vance wants it, he will support Vance. But Rubio's coming on pretty strong. And I think within this administration, the real positive story here is we've got an embarrassment of riches, and on the other side's got not much. I mean, we got J.D. Vance. He can run successfully, I would say. Marco Rubio, a record of accomplishment, very highly respected within the Trump world. So there's a lot of things that could happen. I thought as you got into it, it was pretty interesting what he said about Trump. Asked whether Trump has encouraged him to seek the Republican nomination, Vance said, the discussion has been largely exploratory rather than directive. It's not positive or negative. It's just he kind of talks about it. What's going to happen, How do we make sure that we're successful? What does it mean for the future? It's more of a conversation like that. So we talk about it, but not in great detail because, again, both of us are focused on the here and now. I really don't want my thought about a future job, whether it's president or anything else, to make me a worse vice president. And the way you do that is to keep my attention on the job I have right now. Other names frequently mentioned, according to Newsmax, Marco Rubio, War Secretary Pete Hegseth, President Hegseth, Senator Ted, would it be something? Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, and even conservative commentator Tucker Carlson have been mentioned. Yeah, not seriously. Well, there you go. Now let's get back to the midterms. Democrats are apoplectic because we, on our side of the equation, are trying to make sure that people who go to cast their votes in the midterm elections are actually authorized U.S. citizens eligible to cast a vote in this election. And because of that, we're doing things like saying we want voter ID. What a concept! And it's driving the Democrats absolutely crazy. Listen to the comments of Hillary Rodham Clinton, who doesn't have much confidence in your ability as a voter.
You carry through what they're doing to try to undermine voting. They're trying to kick people off voting rolls. They're trying to demand, forms of identification that most real people don't have.
Hold on. You don't have a driver's license? You got to have a driver's license to get on a plane. You got to have a driver's license to buy a bottle of Sudafed. You have to have a driver's license to buy a 6-pack of beer. You've got to have a driver's license for everything or some form of ID. You can't even go to a restaurant and order a meal and a beer without having to show the waitress your driver's license. That's too much to ask? That drives me nuts. That drives me so nuts. Here again.
Forms of identification that most real people don't have. And
I don't know how she says that.
Most older people and most rural people don't have.
Most rural people. You people who live in the country. You don't have a driver's license? She has a very low opinion of you and your abilities.
They're certainly redistricting to make it difficult to elect black representatives or Latino representatives or Democrats. So that means we have to be even more intentional in showing up and voting.
Yeah. She's you gotta get out there because they're trying to make sure that people who aren't Americans don't vote. And of course, Democrats want those non-Americans to vote. And obviously, shouldn't everybody be? And by the way, the American people don't want illegal aliens to vote. If you're not an American citizen, you should not be voting in a midterm election. Kamala Harris.
Well, you're going to have to Xerox or photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are who you are.
You're going to have to send in well, I don't know if that's true or not. And I don't think that's being asked for. But photocopy? Who uses fax machines? You have a phone with a camera? Do you know anybody who doesn't have a cell phone with a camera? All you have to do, if you had to do that, and I'm not sure you'll have to do that, you'll have to show it when you vote. But would you have to show it in advance? Maybe so. I don't know. But how difficult would that be? You take your driver's license out, you grab your camera on your phone, you take a picture, and you email it in. Not that hard, not that difficult. And if grandpa and grandma can't figure out how to use their cameras, I think everybody knows how to use a camera now on their camera phone, on their iPhones, or their whatever phone they have. I just don't think that's going to be a big deal. But she seems to think that you're going to have to photocopy this. Well, we can't go down to Kinko's. Not every American has access to Kinko's, is what she says.
Photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are who you are. Well, there are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't. There's no Kinko's. There's no Office Max near them. People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are.
You get on a plane, you got to prove who you are. It's not that hard. It is, everybody in America has to prove who they are. If you're in a car, if you drive, you have everything you need to be a registered voter in the coming midterm elections. That's all you need to know. You'll be able to flash a driver's license, but we need to clean up these voter rolls. There's just no doubt about it. Department of Homeland Security is refusing to rule. He's refusing to rule out that ICE might show up at the polls. And Democrats are losing. What you're gonna have ICE show up at the polls? Well, you're not supposed to be in that line if you're not an American citizen. So what's the problem? I just don't understand this at all. DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin defended President Donald Trump's push for citizen checks in federal elections Sunday, claiming DHS was preparing for the 26 midterms by reviewing voter information and records. We're going to make sure that our Constitution is upheld, meaning that only citizens of the United States are voting, Mullin said to Casey Hunt on CNN. When Mullin was asked what the DHS planned to do with voter information under Trump's election order, Mullin said the administration wants to protect the integrity of our elections. Imagine that. Mullin also said the federal election cycle was central to the country and argued that citizen verification should not be controversial. What we want to do is make sure that every vote actually counts. Well, yeah, that's what we want. We're not having games like you might see in sanctuary cities. I'm not saying that they are. I'm just saying that we wouldn't want to make sure that it's safe. Hunt pressed Mullin on the scope of non-citizen voting, citing a Heritage Foundation count of 25 prosecutions for voter fraud cases where citizenship was an issue. Mullin rejected the suggestion the number was too small to justify action. 25, listen, it's a lot more than 25. Let's be honest. One of the things I talk about all the time is that when under the way things were, when we weren't pushing to clean up the rolls, there were a lot of people who could come and vote and cast a vote improperly, vote early, vote often, that part of the thing. Illegal aliens who were casting ballots. It happens. It's hard to prove. You've got to do it on the front end, not the back end. Mullin said he wanted the midterms to be viewed as secure and trusted, but did not identify the states or voter rolls he was referencing when he made broad claims about registration. If you start looking and scrubbing some of these rolls, we see thousands of individuals who are registered to vote and that have had mail-out ballots to them. This exchange came after Mullin faced questions during his confirmation hearing about whether ICE agents would be positioned near polling places. At the time, he questioned why critics were concerned. Well, I have the same question. I don't understand what the concern is about enforcing immigration at polling places. He said, because honestly, if you're not a citizen, you shouldn't be voting anyway. Got to take a quick break right here to see what's going on with traffic and weather at 18 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Currently today, it's heading for a high of 77 right now, 61 degrees in Nashville, Tennessee. No rain today in the forecast, but we are talking about rain returning. We've had a lot of it of late. On Wednesday. Never curse the rain, because remember how it was when we didn't have much of it. Talking about the midterm elections and what we're trying to do to make sure that the people who actually cast their ballots are American citizens. What a concept. Trump signed an executive order on March 31st, ordering and directing the DHS with the Social Security Administration to compile and transmit state citizenship lists to election officials before the election happens. The White House said the order was aimed at verifying eligibility and securing mail-in and absentee ballot procedures. So there you have that. ICE obtains voter records from Texas and North Carolina counties. Federal immigration investigators have begun requesting voting records directly from local election offices, obtaining files in at least 2 counties as part of Trump's administration's expanded effort to investigate alleged non-citizen voting. This according to emails obtained by Axios. Senior Oversight Counsel Dan McGrath said using ICE to pursue a problem this rare should concern everyone. Americans have a right to understand the full scope of the administration's actions. Yeah, the actions are as such. We don't want people who are not authorized to vote in the midterm elections to vote in the midterm elections. What is the controversial part of this? Why in the world is this a problem? It's only a problem for the Democrats because they want to cheat. Other news in the midterms, this blue state made a decision on regard to redistricting. You know, the Supreme Court said you can redistrict, and we've done that in Tennessee. Oregon, however, has decided it will not redraw its map, according to townhall.com, a decision that might upset some progressives in the Democrat Party base. The Democrats have been scrambling as Republicans have fully exploited the recent decision of the High Court, which restricted the rule allowing race-based congressional apportionment. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek made that decision earlier this month through her press office. The state is controlled, as you know, by Democrats, and so Democrats are not going to try to do what other states have done and eliminating race-based districts. And then I just should mention this in passing, when we're talking about the midterms and what's going on. I think the chances of the Senate staying in control of Republicans is pretty good. This could be a complication. Retiring Senator Mitch McConnell was admitted to a hospital on Sunday. McConnell admitted to the hospital this morning. He's receiving excellent care, according to David Popp, a senior advisor to the Kentucky senator, Mitch McConnell. Popp did not provide further details on why McConnell was admitted to the hospital. McConnell voted on the last two Senate roll calls on Thursday. He's had multiple health issues. The former Senate GOP leader is the third oldest member of the Senate, right behind 92-year-old Chuck Grassley, who still got it, by the way, and 84-year-old Bernie Sanders. You may not know this, but McConnell survived polio as a child and has referenced lingering effects in his left leg. He did fall down a small set of stairs recently while leaving the Capitol. That was in 2025. Andy Barr, Republican of Kentucky, won the GOP nomination to succeed McConnell last month and will face former state rep Charles Booker in November. The nonpartisan Cook Political Report rates the race solidly in the GOP's column. But remember, if they have to make a decision to replace McConnell, we have a Democrat governor in the state of Kentucky. 23 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk.
Hey, I'm sitting here chatting with Joan Jones. She comes up here at 9 o'clock this morning. Hey, coming up here at 6:30, the president still touting his announced peace deal with Iran. We'll get to some more details on that. And we'll also have a very disturbing story coming out of Oklahoma City involving a teen. You'll want to stick around for that. Again, that's 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 30 minutes past the hour of 6 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories, a traffic report, a weather forecast, all that stuff's coming up. President Trump touting the announced peace deal with Iran, but does it really resolve what has been the major sticking point of negotiations? ABC's Karen Hua, she is in D.C.
The fate of Iran's nuclear program, a major red line for both parties, appears to still be unresolved. Officials say the deal would include a 60-day ceasefire during which there would be further nuclear negotiations. But the president telling the New York Times that should those talks fail, he would restart strikes on Iran or make the U.S., quote, the guardian of the Middle East in return for 20% of the region's revenues.
Now back here in the U.S., family and friends maintain a vigil at the Oklahoma City hospital where a teen is being kept alive by a ventilator. ABC's Jim Ryan says Leah Presson is thought to be the latest victim of a dangerous social media trend.
It caught fire during the pandemic, a TikTok challenge that had young people taking large doses of Benadryl to get high. It never went away, and now
I was told by one of my daughter's friends that her and my daughter have both been doing this.
Richard Presson lives in Oklahoma City.
My daughter is now in ICU.
A national coalition of poison control centers says cases of Benadryl overdoses have soared this year.
Here in Tennessee, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is looking into an apparent double homicide after two children were found dead and their mother was critically injured Saturday in Obion County. According to the TBI, agents were called in to assist the Kenton Police Department and the Obion County Sheriff's Office with this investigation. Authorities say they responded to a home on Saturday where they found 1-year-old Landry Harris and 11-year-old McKenna Young dead from apparent gunshot wounds. Investigators say the children's mother also found at the home. She was stabbed. She was taken to Regional 1 in Memphis, where she remains in critical condition. Officials, they've not announced any arrests or identified a suspect in this ongoing investigation. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather coming up. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. We do have a report of an injury crash now. This would be Harding Place at Tampa Drive. Also, the backup beginning now on the 65-24 junction north of the city there, north of Trinity Lane. That really starting to back up already. Also looking at other parts of the city, 24 westbound in the Laverne and Smyrna area. Yeah, your backup is beginning there as well. I'm Jay Harper.
It is 37 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, filling in for Dan Mandis. Dan's taking a little vacation time this week. It is that time of year. I mean, school's out. You got to go get your vacation time in. It's very interesting. I thought I retired, but I'm on the air quite a bit, aren't I? That's right. Well, it's better than sitting around twiddling your thumbs. I want to talk about economic news, if I could, because we're seeing a lot of very positive economic data today as we wind down the conflict with Iran. Let me just run through some of this stuff. Some of this stuff is driven by what's happening in Iran. Some stuff is being driven by other forces. I'll get into that in just a bit. Dow Jones Industrial Futures at this hour are up 529 points. S&P is up 98. The NASDAQ is up 635 points. That probably has something to do with what's happening in Iran, but I got to tell you, I think it really has something to do with the SpaceX IPO. I think that was handled by the NASDAQ. Yeah, I think it was. It's up 636 points, most of that driven by SpaceX activity, and that's about up about 2.5%. So all screens are bright, vividly green. But let's get into what really matters when we're talking about Iran, and that is the price of oil. This morning, oil prices are down significantly. A barrel of West Texas Intermediate crude will cost you $80.16. In fact, it dropped just below 80 for a short time this morning. The first time that has happened since March. Brent crude, a little more expensive, but not much. I have to look around my $82.85 for a barrel of Brent crude. And so there you have it. Gold, incidentally, up in a big way, up $123, about 2.9, almost 3%. An ounce of gold cost you $4,361. Wow. Silver up about 4% at $70 an ounce. Well, there you have all that. Here we go. And what does that mean for where people are? I mean, people vote their pocketbooks. There's no doubt about it. From Breitbart.com, consumer sentiment rises as gas prices dip. Consumer sentiment rose. This is a good positive sign because people have been very down on the economy. Consumer sentiment rose in early June as lower gas prices and easing inflation led to less dour views of current conditions and the future. University of Michigan's preliminary June index of consumer sentiment rose 9.2%. The first improvement in 4 months. That was better than expected, but still low by historical standards. The improvement came in both the measured of household views of current economic conditions and the outlook. This month, consumer sentiment ticked up about 4 index points, about 9%. See, that's good. That's good. Because people who are happy with their financial situation will likely continue to support those people that are currently in charge of the various branches of government. And as you know, Republicans control the House, the Senate, the White House, and indeed, we have a 6-3 conservative margin in the Supreme Court. Inflation views have moderated. The year-ahead inflation dipped to 4.6% from 4.8%. The longer-run expectation fell to 3.4%. In a perfect world, you want your inflation to be at 2%. If you have 2% inflation, you are doing something. We're at 4% and change. So, it's not runaway inflation, but, it's not near what we had when Joe Biden was in office and inflation was at 9%. But anything that lowers the cost of gasoline and gives consumers confidence that things is a good thing for our side as we approach the midterm elections. Talked about the IPO, about SpaceX. Elon Musk has become, I can't make this up, become the world's first trillionaire. That's trillion with a T. From CBS News, Elon Musk has become the first person to cross the trillionaire threshold, at least on paper, after SpaceX priced its blockbuster initial public offering, the IPO, at $135 a share, and its stock soared, and its stock market to be still up today. Before the IPO, Musk was worth an estimated, what a piker, $813 billion. A fortune more than twice as large as the planet's second richest person, who is Google co-founder Larry Page. He's worth only a paltry $288 billion, according to Forbes. SpaceX wants to be able to take you to the moon, take you to Mars, and ultimately beyond. Musk said at a launch event with staffers on Friday at the company's headquarters at Starbase, Texas. That's right, they have a place called Starbase, Texas. While billionaire wealth alone may be hard enough to comprehend, a trillionaire represents a level of wealth that rivals the economic output of the world's largest nations. Only 19 countries have GDPs, gross domestic product, that surpass 1 trillion, ranging from the U.S. to the Netherlands. Musk's surging fortune represents a new gilded age of wealth inequality, say the Democrats. This just rankles me. So a guy comes along and does some revolutionary things with electric cars and rocket ships that will go to the moon and to Mars, and he's building it's a remarkable internet network that will give you internet from space. You can go anywhere on the planet with a SpaceX Starlink receiver and get internet. You can anywhere. You can put a battery on it and take it literally anywhere and have full bore internet wherever you are, and that's a pretty good deal. So, this guy has done some amazing things, and he's successful. And all the Democrats can talk about is how jealous they are that somebody has been successful. Well, it's income inequality. I get so irritated at that. When in America did being successful become a bad thing? When did that happen? I say, I hope he becomes a quadrillionaire. I hope he makes more money. I want him to be successful. I believe that our country is founded, basically the promise of America is you can come to America, you can put your head down, put your nose to the grindstone, work hard every day, and chances are if you make more good decisions about your life than bad decisions, you're going to be successful, because we don't promise you that you're going to be successful, but we promise you that the opportunity is going to be there for you to be successful. That's what America is built upon. And, and all these other people who are jealous that somebody made a little bit more money than they did, you know what I would say to them? Well, what did you do with your life? Did you make good decisions with your life? Did you drop out of school? Did you complete your education? Did you Did you stay away from drugs and alcohol? I mean, all I'm telling you is if you make more good decisions than bad decisions, you will succeed in America if you work hard and keep your nose clean and try to make good decisions more than you make bad decisions. That's all it takes. It's just not that hard to succeed in America. But it's not Elon Musk's fault if you didn't complete your education, if you made bad decisions. Maybe, you got pregnant, and then that caused some economic hardship for you. I mean, come on. You made those decisions. And I would say, rather than look at Elon Musk and criticize him for being successful, why not look at your own life and find out why you weren't and have a serious conversation? The opportunity is there in America for anyone who wants to succeed. Hard work pays off. Good decisions pay off. Make more good decisions than bad decisions, and you're going to be okay. So quit attacking people who are successful. I just don't understand when success became a bad word in America, but it has become in many quarters. You talk about economic inequality. Well, there's nothing stopping you from being successful except you. The opportunities are there, and people have come here to this country with nothing and have proven that time and time and time again. 4,000 current and former SpaceX employees became millionaires after the IPO. They get stock, and when the stock goes up, there's a lot of people who became millionaires. 4,000 current and former SpaceX employees already mapping out plans to spend their anticipated wealth from the company's expected initial public offering, IPO, and luxury real estate, high-end watches, private jet travel, topping their lists. Good for them. Good for them. It is, of course, we're not out of the woods yet because things are a bit more expensive. There are things that are just out there and you go, why is that expensive? Apparently, one of the things that I want to be honest about it. We're not where we need to be, but we are headed that direction. Summer sticker shock, the 14% burger tax hitting your backyard barbecue this weekend. As people start to get ready for the 4th of July cookout, we're doing a cookout this year. It's going to be burgers and hot dogs. That's all we're going to do. Hardworking Americans looking to fire up the grill are facing major sticker shock before they even light the charcoal. As inflation continues to squeeze household budgets, the newly released Wells Fargo's Summer Barbecue Food Report reveals that hosting a standard summer barbecue for 10 people has climbed to an average of $161. 10 people, $161, about $16 a person. I mean, wieners, not that expensive. While total cookout costs are up 2.4% over year, the real pricing pain is hiding on the meat tray. The quintessential American hamburger beef has skyrocketed by 14%. Regarding food inflation, price increases this season will really depend on the category. For fresh fruits and vegetables, they anticipate some relief. So here's what they suggest if you want to do something price effective. Maybe burgers are a little too expensive for you this year. Chicken and pork cost products rose 3% from the previous year and are seen as the cost-friendly option. And hot dogs and frankfurters are up only 5%. Ready-made sides like potato salad up 3%. Cornbread up 4%. Raw vegetables up 6%. If you're saving room for dessert, sweet treat prices have increased anywhere from 1% to 4%. But overall, we are not in horrible shape, but it will cost you a little more to go to do a little cookout for the 4th of July. It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
So where does Israel fall into the announced U.S.-Iranian peace deal? We'll have that story. Also, major storms pounding parts of the U.S. and a stabbing in South Nashville over what? A soccer match? Yeah, we'll have that story coming up at 7 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Let's head out to the swamp. Yeah, there's a lot of swampalicious things happening. You know, a lot of the stuff that people talk about, well, that's just a conspiracy theory, have turned out to be not conspiracy theories. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard declassified intelligence about a constellation of biological laboratories in the Ukraine on Friday and other places. At 4 years after members of Congress and biodefense officials criticized her for even suggesting that something like that might be possible. Here is Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, for the moment.
After months of searching through intelligence community holdings and files, today I'm releasing new evidence of long-standing U.S. government funding of more than 120 biolabs in over 30 countries. Now, these biolabs include labs in places like Ukraine, which could be at risk of compromise due to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. In fact, the intelligence community had previously warned that a U.S.-funded biolab in Ukraine likely housed dangerous pathogens and remained vulnerable to long-standing threats of Russian attack, seizure, or damage. Now, until now, evidence regarding the full existence and funding of these laboratories had been knowingly withheld from you, the American people. Many of these U.S. government-funded biolabs are currently or have previously engaged in research using hazardous and highly contagious pathogens, and in some cases included dangerous gain-of-function research with very little visibility or oversight. Now, President Trump clearly understands the serious threat dangerous gain-of-function research poses to the American people.
Wait a minute.
Politicians,
gain-of-function
so-called health
research?
professionals like Dr.
Excuse me. Gain-of-function research? Really? Honestly? Isn't that what Rand Paul has been talking about for years? And everybody poo-pooed Rand Paul, said he doesn't know what he's talking about. It was real.
Politicians and so-called health professionals like Dr. Fauci, as well as entities within the Biden administration's national security team, lied repeatedly to the American people about the existence of U.S.-funded and supported biolabs. Not only did they lie, they threatened those who attempted to expose the truth. So this release today breaks new ground, as the information surrounding the existence, history, locations, and funding of these U.S.-funded biolabs has been intentionally covered up by very powerful people who falsely claimed that these biolabs didn't exist. Now, they accuse anyone who says otherwise to be foreign assets and traitors to America. Now, Odie and I will continue working closely with partners across the U.S. government to identify exactly where these labs are and what pathogens they contain to end dangerous gain-of-function research that threatens the health and well-being of the American people and people around the world.
Pretty eye-opening stuff. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, stirring the pot a little bit as she exits that role here in the next few days. It was real, and Rand Paul was right. He was right all along. Very quickly, just to mention, they took the Trump's name off the Kennedy Center this weekend. That also happened in the swamp. 7 o'clock. It's time for the news with Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 7 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories, a weather forecast, a traffic report. They're both coming up. A U.S.-Iran peace deal has been announced by both countries. So where does Israel fit into all of this? We hear now from Karen Hua in D.C.
Israel, not a party to this plan, struck Iran-backed Hezbollah targets in Beirut Sunday, nearly derailing negotiations. At least 3 people were killed, 6 others injured. Former Israeli senior military intelligence officer Avner Valan telling us that he is doubtful Prime Minister Netanyahu would support the deal.
We've known the Iranians for many years. You don't really believe that the fact that they promised or they signed something is worth anything.
Back here in the U.S., parts of Texas saw flash flooding overnight following thunderstorms that also hit the Midwest.
Powerful storms pummeled parts of the Midwest over the weekend. Heavy rain coming down in Omaha, Nebraska, while parts of Kansas saw hail the size of golf balls. Winds up to 70 miles per hour lashing northeast Ohio.
I mean, we're used to the high winds, obviously, but never to this extreme.
The storm's also wreaking havoc on air travel. More than 10,000 flights delayed and over 1,000 canceled Sunday.
Back here in Tennessee, Nashville, actually, a 19-year-old has been arrested for allegedly stabbing two people during a fight watching a soccer match at a Nashville apartment complex. Channel 4's Brendan Tierney has more.
A 19-year-old got mad watching soccer, kicked a friend's beer, and then pulled out a knife during a fight late Saturday night. Metro Police say he ended up stabbing two men inside their apartment.
Crazy to hear that something like that happened over here.
Brandon Winkler lives in the Grove apartment complex along Edmondson Pike. He walks his dog right past the woods where Metro Police say they found Oscar Romero hiding after the attack.
It's really sad to hear, honestly. I hope everyone's doing okay, but that is really tragic, especially over a soccer game. Like, there's no need for it to come to that kind of thing.
Romero was arrested on aggravated assault with a deadly weapon charges and is being held in jail by ICE for the felonies.
Don't need someone like that, I guess, around this neighborhood.
One of the victims told me off camera they were lucky to only have a small cut, but Brandon says he's going to be on alert every time he goes for a walk.
Watch my left and right, blind sides, all that good stuff. Make sure, no one's around or lurking.
Hoping they don't have any more issues out here with the World Cup lasting another month.
Romero has been booked on an $80,000 bond. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather coming up. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. We have a crash, 24 westbound at Briley Parkway, headed into the city. Also, another wreck, Vietnam Veterans Boulevard, headed toward Conference Drive. That would be Vietnam Vets westbound. We have a crash there as well. Up in Montgomery County near Clarksville, 24 eastbound, just past Rossview Road at exit 8. There's a crash there, stop-and-go traffic all the way from exit 4. And the left lane blocked out in Lebanon, 40 westbound at exit 238 due to a crash. I'm Jay Harper.
Good morning, everybody. It's 6 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair for Dan Mandis, who will return on Monday, taking some time down at the beach. Good for him and Amy and Riker putting their toes in the sand. I saw some pictures on social media. Looks like a good time is being had by all. I'll be here, as I say, all the way through Thursday. We got Jay Harper in the newsroom. Good morning to you, Jay. Good to have you in the little news closet this morning. He's busy. And we got Sam pushing the blinky buttons as he does so well. Sam doing a great job there. I want to mention that Joan Jones will be filling in for Chris Hand after this program, so she'll be with us. Well, hopefully she'll join us at 8:35. I understand she's already in the house, so
she's already at work, Brian.
Already at work. She's already, I mean, you talk about dedication. She's already here and cranking, and she's going to be giving you 3 hours of excellent content. You can count on it. Go to the bank. You know, by the way, this is 6:15. This is June 15th, 6:15, 615. It's an unofficial holiday in Nashville. It's 615 Day. It's 615 is our major area code. And so there's a lot of little 615 things going on. Did you know that the 615 area code, each area code has 8 million phone numbers? I didn't know that. We have I think 3 here. We got 615, 901,
931.
Was it 941?
No, 931. 901 is Memphis.
Ah, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the area codes first launched. Okay, here it is. The first area codes launched in 1947. All of Tennessee was 901. 615 debuted in 54. West Tennessee took 901, and 615 went to everyone else. It cooled down for 423 emerged in 1995, and the 931 area code was created to cover parts of Middle Tennessee outside of the Nashville area. There you go. More than you cared to know about area codes, but it's 615 Day.
Oh, I was going to say, and the latest one is now 629.
I still have a 202 area code. When I was in Washington, D.C., I got a great 202 number, and I've kept it for years. And now you don't want to change it. I mean, my wife has a, with her cell phone, has a Michigan what do you call it, area code. And so, a lot of people end up with weird area codes. A lot of time I'll call people and they'll see the 202 and they'll think, that's spam. And then when they realize I leave a message, they call me back. If you get a 202, it's not necessarily from Washington, D.C., but anyway, more than I care to talk about. But the 615 Day, apparently a lot of special deals, special meals, that kind of stuff. It's sort of becoming a thing. I want to start this morning, after that, talking about the situation, the big news of the day. The United States and Iran have reached a deal to stop the fighting and reopening the shipping. Here is what the Wall Street Journal reports on that. Signing planned for Friday, marking a potential breakthrough in a war that has roiled the global economy. Iran and the U.S. have agreed to an interim peace deal. The two nations announced Sunday a potentially major breakthrough after nearly 4 months of infighting that created global and political economic turmoil. A deal set to be signed Friday, according to President Trump and Pakistani negotiators. Trump had earlier indicated he hoped the deal would be signed yesterday, but that didn't happen, partially because of some conflict between Israel and Iran and their proxies, Hezbollah. Trump said the Strait of Hormuz would be opened on Friday, indicating in a social media post that time was needed for purposes of mine removal. In an earlier post, Trump said Iran's restrictions on shipping in the Strait and the U.S. naval blockade on Iran would be simultaneously and immediately lifted. So that's starting to happen. I don't think they got a lot of mines down, but there may be one or two they know about that they need to clear. The United States basically has been escorting in the dark of night oil tankers and other ships out of the Strait of Hormuz, and as long as they're not helping Iran, with their oil situation. But that's all going to change. Look, it was always in Iran's best interest. It was in our best interest. It's in the world's best interest for the Strait of Hormuz to reopen. So as long as it was closed, it was killing Iran. They couldn't sell the one thing they had to sell, which is oil. It meant that 20% of the world's oil and gas supply was not getting to market because the Strait of Hormuz was closed. A fifth of our energy needs. And so when you lose a fifth of your energy, well, the cost of energy is going to go up. When we have an abundance of something, prices are low. When we have a lot of something, it's low. When you don't have much of it, the prices go up. It's the law of supply and demand. Pretty simple. If you understand the law of supply and demand, you know a lot about what drives economics. So anyway, starting to sound like we might be coming out of that because of that. We've had inflation in our country because gas prices have been high. So where are we today? I have that information right here at my fingertips. AAA says that the national average for a gallon of gas is $4.06 right now. Tennessee average is 46 cents lower than that, for $3.60 on average. But then again, I want to point this out. It's a sort of a diverting from a major theme here, but let me just get this in because it just baffles. I don't understand this. If you buy a gallon of gas in Wilson County, it'll cost you on average $3.47 a gallon. If you go across the county line into Davidson County, it will cost you on average 22 cents more a gallon. So let's just figure that out. If you got a 20-gallon tank and you're paying 22 cents more, 22 times 20, that's going to be $4.40 more per tank if you fill up in Davidson versus Wilson. But, and this is the amazing thing, if you go to Williamson County, you cross the line again and you go to Williamson County. I mean, who in the world would do that? But one way or the other, Williamson County, a gallon of gas is $4.09 a gallon. And that's 62 cents a gallon more than it is in Wilson County. 62 cents a gallon. So 0.62 times 20. That's $12.40 more to fill up your tank in Williamson County than it would cost in Wilson. Why is that? I don't understand. It's all Tennessee. The gas all comes from the same place in Tennessee, but that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. So there you have it. Look, the price of gasoline is going to come down, and that's going to cause inflation to go down, and that is a good thing. We need to stop very briefly to do a quick check of traffic and weather. I got more to talk about with regard to this Iran deal. 7:15 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Currently in Nashville, it is 62 degrees, heading up to a high today of 77. We got rain returning to the Middle Tennessee area on Wednesday. You got a couple of days here to get things done. If you need to mow your yard, whatever you got to do, get it done before Wednesday. All right. So there is that. Talking about the situation with Iran, we have a deal. Everybody is agreeing. The Pakistanis who had negotiated the deal say it's done. The U.S. says it's done. Even the Iranians are saying that done. The deal will be signed on Friday. The Strait of Hormuz will open. The war fighting will cease. That's at least the hope. J.D. Vance says, thank you, Americans, for taking the hit to make sure that Iran never had a nuclear weapon.
Well, first of all, I think it's a big moment for the United States of America. Thanks, of course, to the president's leadership and the hard work of the entire team. Three things that I think are important for the American people just to appreciate about what this deal does for all of us as Americans. Number one, this is the immediate opening of the Straits of Hormuz and, of course, the lifting of the naval blockade that we've had on Iran along with it. The number two thing that it means is that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, and not just pursue a nuclear weapon, but procure or try to buy a nuclear weapon as well. That's built into this agreement. And then the third thing is, and this only happens, to be clear, if Iran delivers on their promise. And so there's an approach here where we verify and where there are real benefits so long as Iran meets their end of the obligation. But if the Iranians comply with this deal, it is going to fundamentally transform the Middle East for the next 50 years. It's going to end the war. It's going to make the Middle East more investable. It's going to mean a lot of prosperity, lower energy prices for the American people. This region of the world has been a basket case for my entire life and longer than that. And what the president has really set us to do is to certainly eliminate the nuclear threat of Iran. That's done. But now possibly to build to a new era of Middle East prosperity and success where it's not a region of the world where the United States has to worry about so much, but where, frankly, we can generate a lot of prosperity for the American people out of that region. That's a very, very big win, and it all happened because the president stuck with it.
That's right, he stuck with it, and you endured the higher gas prices that made it all possible. Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. This is a good thing, ladies and gentlemen. We should celebrate this. Absolutely celebrate this. I just want to say one thing, however. It's not done until it's done. It's not done until the documents are signed and the deal is agreed to, and that's going to happen on Friday. And I would say this. There are forces within the country of Iran who are not on board with this. And they have access to weaponry. And they have access to their proxies that are throughout the entire region. For example, Hezbollah. Thing nearly blew up. The whole thing nearly blew up when Hezbollah launched some rockets into Israel, and Israel responded. In fact, the president of the United States was pretty upset with Netanyahu. The quotes here, I can't even say this stuff on the radio. Here's what Trump said about Netanyahu. I mean, apparently he got on the phone and gave him an earful. I couldn't believe it. An hour before we're supposed to sign the deal, Trump acknowledged Hezbollah attacked Israel first, but stressed it didn't cause any damage and nobody had been killed. Why did Bibi have to do an effing attack? I'm so PO'd. I let him know. He has no effing judgment. I let him know that. Apparently, that was a pretty interesting conversation. There you go. But again, that nearly blew things up, and it's entirely possible that there will be forces within Iran who will try to mess up the deal because they're not in agreement with it. So we're not done until it's done, and even after it's done, there's no guarantee that some of these forces within Iran are going to play nicely with the rest of the world. We'll see. We'll see. It may be that Trump will have to go back and bop these guys on the nose if they don't act right. But he's prepared to do that, and we certainly continue to have complete autonomy in that region. We have air superiority, maybe even air supremacy. We can go in and out of Iran with impunity. We can, have our way, basically, in that particular part of the world. Trump's Iran deal raises questions set to dominate the G7. The allies have yet to see the text of the pact aimed at ending a war that weighed on global economy. President Trump set to arrive in France today, having just announced the peace deal in Iran. Trump will spend 3 days in Avion-le-Bain. I believe that's the way you say it. My French is always suspect. For a summit of the Group of Seven. Nominally about technology, trade, and global economic imbalances, but the high-level discussions are certain to center on the interim agreement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, lift the U.S. blockade, and pause the war for at least 60 days, leaving the thornier negotiations about Tehran's nuclear work for future technical talks. When Trump lands, French President Emmanuel Macron and other world leaders expected to shower him with praise over the deal, while also peppering him with questions about how such a complicated pact could hold together over the coming months. There you have it. 21 minutes now past the hour of 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
President Trump over the weekend celebrating his birthday, also word of an Iranian peace deal, and now he does indeed head to the G7 summit in France. We also have word of a tragic, deadly plane crash in Missouri. Those stories coming up at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, it's hard to believe, but in some parts of the country, this is actually happening. You can go onto your phone and order an item from Walmart, and it will be delivered to your home by drone. I mean, it's already happening in some places like Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, Charlotte. Walmart working with Wing, which is the drone delivery partner owned by Google, company Alphabet. But they're getting ready to add a bunch of new cities. I'm sorry to say Nashville is not one of them. The new cities getting the service are Memphis. That's the one right in our own backyard. New Orleans, Philadelphia, Phoenix, San Diego, the San Francisco Bay Area, and Salt Lake City. And so basically, what does this mean? Small items, you can't have big items. You can't deliver a whole bag of groceries. But if you need something quickly, the Wing drones can carry packages up to 5 pounds. Zipline drones, which operate in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, can handle up to 8 pounds. So they will be basically delivered to your house in a matter of minutes after you order it. The drones fly at 60 miles an hour, 6 to 10 miles within a participating store. So items like eggs, ice cream, pet food, fresh fruit, you can get that kind of stuff delivered right to your backyard. Flies to your house, hovers over your house, lowers it down on your front porch or your back patio deck, whatever you got. Lowers it down. The drone never lands. So you don't have to worry about the dog in the drone getting in trouble. The dog may get into the stuff that gets dropped in your backyard, but that's a different problem for you, right? Drones coming someday soon. Memphis gets it before we do, but eventually there will become a time where you can order things by drone and have them delivered to your house. What a time we live in. 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7. Time for the news with Jay Harper.
It is 7:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A forecast and a traffic report are upcoming. President Trump on his way to the G7 summit in Switzerland with an Iran war peace deal in hand. ABC's Rachel Scott, she's in Geneva with the latest.
The president did not consult our European allies before waging war in the Middle East, but he still wanted them to get involved in this conflict. Many of them just flat out refused. But overnight, we are hearing from our European allies who are welcoming the news of a possible breakthrough in this conflict. French President Emmanuel Macron saying this could lay the groundwork now for more comprehensive negotiations on peace in the Middle East. France, of course, is hosting the G7 summit.
So what exactly are the terms of the deal? ABC's Martha Raddatz helps answer that question.
In addition to reopening of the strait, this initial agreement, according to a senior administration official, leads to the dismantling of the Iranian nuclear program, leads to the United States destroying and removing enriched uranium from Iran, calls for inspections to ensure a long-term commitment and that it's long-term enforceable. And Iran gets rewarded economically only if they meet the obligations under the deal.
Now back here in the U.S., in the Midwest, federal investigators are beginning work today at the scene of a deadly skydiving plane crash in Missouri. 11 skydivers and the pilot all killed when the plane went down. It happened shortly after takeoff from the Butler Memorial Airport. That's about 65 miles south of Kansas City. Local officials say there's no evidence of criminal activity or terrorism. ABC's Sophie Flay has details.
The small skydiving plane was carrying 9 experienced skydivers, 2 tandem jumpers, and a pilot. A man who wants to remain anonymous says his son was on the plane.
He's probably got four or 500 jumps, and he's just something he loved to do, and just never start the morning thinking you're going to die.
It remains unclear what caused the plane to crash. The company operating the flight, Skydive Kansas City, says it's cooperating with local and federal authorities.
That is the latest news. Weather and traffic are coming up. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. Folks up in the Montgomery County area still trying to clear this wreck. 24 eastbound just past exit 8. Stop and go traffic all the way from exit 4. 65 southbound at the Briley-Ellington exit. We've got a crash working there in Madison. And they have pretty well got this wreck in Wilson County cleared out, though. It's over on the shoulder. 40 westbound at Lebanon, the Murfreesboro Road exit there, exit 238. I'm Jay Harper.
You know that if you've ever listened to me do a show, you know that I believe the truth is out there. And we are, I think, learning the truth about all this stuff in recent days with the release of a bunch of documents that the government has held, I don't know, all the way since the 30s and the 40s. There are all kinds, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of documents, and I don't know how many videos have been released by the federal government at the request of Donald Trump. And some of these things we got last Friday. It was the third dump of these documents. And let me just go through some of the stuff that we have found out. This is from ABC News. New UFO files describing spinning discs and glowing orbs. New UFO files have been released by the Trump administration that include several vivid descriptions of mysterious sightings in the sky. One was a rotating disc that sent out beams of light. Another was a shining red orb of a hue the observer had never seen before. There was one that looked like a potato, one that looked like a bean, but with a coat of shimmering fish-like scales. Wow. Those were some of the UFOs described in documents released Friday by the Pentagon, the third release since President Trump directed his administration to give the public full disclosure around what it knows about alien life and mysterious objects in the sky. The 72 files released on Friday don't include the kind of blockbuster revelation that Trump has teased. In other words, we didn't have the holy crap moment. There's no conclusive evidence of alien life if government covers up. But the files reveal new details about recent sightings, along with the government's efforts to explain why many of the findings are hard to describe and hard to explain. It happened, for example, the potato. The flying potato happened in 2022, a brisk February morning in Colorado Springs. You ready for this? 5 U.S. Army members at Fort Carson walked out of an office building and saw something strange hovering over Cheyenne Mountain a few miles to the west. The object was potato-shaped with distinct edges and appeared to look painted in a creamy, whitish, opalescent color. According to the account, it was made up of articulating fish scales on panels that were non-symmetrical, non-overlapping, and irregularly shaped. It stayed motionless, shimmering for about 2 minutes. Then it vanished in the blink of an eye. None of the men had phones on them. There was no video, no photos. But these were 5 U.S. Army members at Fort Carson. The men insisted it was a clear, cloudless day. No aircraft or balloons were believed to be in the area. The 4-page report, heavily redacted, attributed only to an intelligence community partner, said it didn't appear to be technology from a foreign adversary. The FBI rendering looks just like one imagined, a scaly, pale potato. I mean, that's just one of them. You know, at the same time, a lot of people who have been following this issue very closely and people that are involved in releasing details about these UAPs, these unidentified aerial phenomenon, are not happy with because they have seen stuff that the rest of us have not seen. David Grush is said to be among this in this world. David Grush is said to be the guy who knows more than a lot of people. He was tasked by Congress to go and be their liaison, to go and investigate on behalf of Congress. And now he has seen things, and he has witnessed things, and he's looked at files, and he's looked at pictures, and he knows that there's a lot more out there. And he's threatening that if you don't come up across with these documents, I will start to tell people what I know, and we will release other documents that we have. Here is how he described this weekend. He was on one of the Fox weekend shows, and he described, and this is getting a lot of buzz, some of the crash retrieval pictures that he has seen and what some of these UFOs that we have recovered apparently look like. This is David Grush speaking on Fox News this weekend. Pretty bizarre stuff.
I did get access to crash retrieval photos and everything, so I've seen the recovered vehicles and everything. So I would say that's probably the most stupendous thing, earth-shattering thing that, changed my worldview when I got access to some of that years ago. And I do hope the administration, and I think they will, release that information in a further drop. A lot of it was lenticular discs. Some was...
He said lenticular disc. I wonder, Sam, could you look up the word lenticular? Lenticular, Lenticular. I'm trying to.
Yes.
I have never heard that term before.
It is lenticular. Describes something that is lens-shaped or relates to lenses, originating from the Latin word for lentil because of its characteristics double convex shape.
So it looks something, like a
curved, thin object.
I'm thinking in the shape of what do you call this thing? Contact.
Yes.
That you put in your eye. Yeah, like a contact. It's lenticular. All right. More from David Grush.
A lot of it was lenticular discs. Some was crescent moon shapes.
Crescent moon shapes. I haven't seen that one.
I call it the flattened sunfish.
A flattened sunfish. That's really bizarre. What does that look like, I wonder?
There's a bunch of different morphologies that the U.S. government has recovered, from eggs to discs to crescent moon, boomerang type vehicles, and I got a small smattering sample of that of ones that have landed or crashed on the surface of the earth.
Stop and think for just a moment about the times that we're living in. We are hearing people who are incredibly credible, people who work within the military, people who work within the government, high-ranking government officials that start at the Secretary of State and work all the way down, are all talking about things that years ago we used to laugh about. UAP are real. Now, we don't know what they are. Some of it, I think, is ours. I think it's stuff that we've reverse engineered. But what a time we live in that we're actually talking about this stuff in a serious way. Stuff that the government told us wasn't true turned out to be true. They were there. There are apparently UFOs, and apparently we have recovered biologics out of some of these things. Unbelievable. And here's something new that happened this weekend also. A UAP Science Advisory Council has been ordered by the president. So let me see. I'm trying to get to the latest UAP file release include reports of dated June 5th of 2026. And they have set up a UAP Science Advisory Council. Here it is. By the White House, AARO, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the FBI, and all intelligence community members. It's not wishful thinking, but a reality now. Over the past week, they put Avi Loeb in charge of it. Avi Loeb is a well-known scientist who has been studying, he's an astrophysicist, I believe, and he has been studying this matter. And they put Professor Gary Nolan, who is a man who has apparently seen the biologics. He's a molecular biology and material science professor. They added an admiral, Dr. Tim Gallaudet, an oceanographer, who has said that a lot of these things have not only been seen in the skies, but in the waters. And because he's an admiral, he's had access to a lot of our naval sensors, our underwater sensors, and we have seen things moving very fast, very large things that move very fast through the air and through the water. It's not just UAPs, it's also USOs, unidentified submersed objects. I mean, what a time we live in. That is all happening right now. And again, we haven't seen the thing. A lot of people don't believe it. About 30% of Americans right now, in some of the surveys I've seen, do not believe this stuff. But I do. And I think that we are living in a remarkable time where things that were once laughed about are turning out to be true. And some of the stuff you're hearing is so fantastical, it's hard to wrap your head around it. Interdimensional beings. Some people think that these are angels. Some people think they are demons. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on out there, but we are learning it. And this also comes at a time when Steven Spielberg released his movie Disclosure Day. It opened up as #1. I had a chance to go see this movie. Sam, I understand you went to see the movie. I'd love to have your thoughts about what you thought about Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day.
I thought it was a great example of kind of how something like this would come to light, as you and I talked about off-air pre-show about, these private military contractors that allegedly have reverse engineered this stuff that has crashed on our planet are holding the key in this, not to spoil the plot for the film. I will say the trailer made it seem like there's a lot more alien stuff involved, because the majority of this is just him and the, not to give the plot, but him and this woman are trying
two major characters, right? Yeah,
they're just trying to get away from this private military organization and get this information to the people.
Yes, and you would agree. I think I would agree with that. I mean, a lot of it is sort of like we're being chased by evil people who want to stop us from revealing this information to the world, and a lot of it is that. And it's just a good chase scene. And it by the way, Spielberg knows how to build drama, knows how to tell a good story. I mean, what a national treasure this guy is. John Williams, the theme, is really quite good. But it's really, I would say, maybe the last 10 minutes of the movie where it gets pretty eye-popping. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I found the whole, as you and I talked about, the whole newsroom scene kind of fascinating, how they were trying to get this out there and everything. And the way they end it on kind of we disclosed, and now, kind of leaving the open interpretation as to how the world reacted to it. In the film, they set the precedent that the Koreas are about to go into, World War III with China and Russia and all this stuff. So it's apparently like a distraction from that at the same time.
Yeah. So you got all this stuff going on. And Spielberg has said that there is more truth than fiction in this science fiction movie. And when you look at some of the videos that are played out, I don't know. Tell me what you think, Sam. I think some of them look so realistic that they may actually be real. If not, they are very well-informed recreations. And that's my take on it.
The ones with any biologics in the scenes, I think, are very well-informed recreations. But some of those that are the object just moving through space, I couldn't tell the difference, and I've looked at a lot of that stuff, same as yourself.
I can't tell the difference either. And in fact, there's stuff that they play out. If it is real, it's stuff I've never seen before.
Well, and someone, as you pointed out, with Spielberg being an American icon in this aspect, someone pointed out, and I 100% agree, I think you will too, even a mid-level Spielberg film is better than some other directors' best creations of all time.
Yeah. $44 million. It opened in domestic theaters around the country. It's called Disclosure Day. Expected, collecting 92.9 worldwide first weekend. This was good enough to give the 79-year-old Spielberg his best opening weekend for an original movie, not accounting to inflation in some time. Spielberg is the father of the modern blockbuster, but this is the first summer movie in 10 years released by Universal. Let's say, but disclosure, released by is his first summer movie in 10 years. It opened in a much different movie world than the one that greeted Jaws, as you might imagine. They said the fact of the matter is, you can't compare this to past blockbusters and say, well, it was a failure because they didn't make as much money as Jaws. Look, we don't go to the movies like we did when Jaws was coming out. We just don't. We wait for it to come to our homes. And there will be a lot of people to see it. So did it have an impact? Yes. Is it pretty impressive? I would say quite impressive. I just think it's a very interesting time we live in, and I think that we are yet to learn stuff that will blow our minds. Quite frankly, I think we're very close in this stuff. But again, it's very interesting. Either you believe it or you don't believe it. And about 30, it's really amazing that most people in America believe that UFOs are real and the government knows more than it's sharing. About 30% of Americans still say, we don't believe it at all.
Hey, Brian, what did you think about back to the film just real quick, how they didn't step on anyone's toes, right? Like they had the character that was part of the convent and they're going to the church, and even the nun at the church is kind of open to the possibility that these things could be otherworldly.
Yeah, I mean, we are, there's nothing in. I've actually been thinking about this a lot, and I've actually talked over part of this with my pastor, trying to understand certain things. But you know what? There's nothing that I read in the Bible that says that we are alone in the universe. We are God's creation on earth.
Exactly.
And but not necessarily. That's not to say we're the only. I mean, it's a vast universe. Did he just leave it empty? I don't think so. That's the way I look at it. I don't know. Everybody's entitled to their interpretation. 52 minutes now past the hour of 7 o'clock on Super Talk.
Well, gas prices are already seeing some relief across the country. And while a U.S.-Iran peace deal appears to be on the horizon, the Ukrainian-Russia conflict rages on, and a dangerous pandemic TikTok trend, it continues. We'll have those stories at 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
58 minutes past the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, the word of the day is lenticular.
Lenticular.
See if you can work that into a conversation today. I don't know that I can. I can't think of a way to work lenticular into regular conversation.
Lenticular.
That's slow. Let me pick that up. It's a little fact.
I was going to say there's three areas. There's printing, clouds, or galaxies. So you got some choices on how to work it in.
Lenticular.
Yeah. By the way, here's the way it sounds if you're British.
Lenticular.
Oh my goodness!
I thought it was going to come out in Arabic.
Yeah, no. This is what it is, and who knows? I mean, I don't know what to think about this anymore. I've never seen anything in the sky that I couldn't explain. So, I mean, would I like to see a UFO? Yeah. The only person I personally know who claims to have witnessed a UFO is Ken Weaver. But we're not sure because it was at a rock concert in New Mexico. Who knows? Maybe it was something else. But one way, he says everybody saw it. I don't know. It's just remarkable that we live in a time where this stuff is being made clear to us. It's not clear yet, but we're getting there. And I think ultimately we're going to find it's a combination of things. Some of it is completely unexplainable. Some of it is reverse engineering. Some of it may well be people coming to visit this planet from other planets. Who knows? Some people say they've been here forever. They've been here longer than we have been. Some say that they live underwater. Some people say they live in Antarctica. I don't know. But one way or the other, all of these things are remarkable. And we're right in the middle of learning them. And so you are prepared. Be sure you can say this word.
Lenticular.
Lenticular. The word of the day here on Super Talk 99.7. We got one more hour to go. We'll talk about what's going to happen in the midterm elections. Now that we have this Iran thing apparently straightened out, it's all straight ahead right here on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for the vacationing Dan Mandis.
It is 1 minute past 8 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A full forecast and a traffic report are coming up. Well, while you're sitting in traffic, good news on one front. The nationwide average for gas has dipped below $4 a gallon just as road trip season heats up. Elizabeth Schulze, she's sitting at a gas station in Washington, D.C.
We have seen the U.S. and other countries dip into their oil stockpiles to try to alleviate prices. The U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve now actually on track to reach its lowest level since 1983, and it will take months to replenish those reserves. So the key for gas prices from here is how quickly we actually start to see tankers move through the Strait of Hormuz. If there are no clear signs that that oil is coming back on the market, we could still see gas prices go up again this summer.
Now back to the war with Russia and Ukraine. A cathedral situated in an 11th century monastery, which is one of the holiest sites for Orthodox Christians. It's been struck and badly damaged during an overnight Russian drone and missile attack on Ukraine's capital. Russia fired hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles overnight, killing many, according to Ukrainian officials, at least 10 people, they say. ABC's Tom Sufi-Burridge, he is at the foreign desk.
Video from Ukraine's emergency services shows the golden domed roof of the 11th century Uspensky Cathedral on fire. On a visit to the site to survey the damage, Ukraine's President Zelensky said the building, which sits within a sacred monastery, was struck by a Russian drone. That monastery, known as the Lavra, is not just one of the holiest sites in Ukraine, but all Orthodox Christian countries, including Russia. Hours after the attack, Moscow claimed, without evidence, that the building had been hit by an American-made Patriot air defense missile. Tom Sufi-Burridge, ABC News, At the Foreign Desk.
A dangerous trend born on TikTok during the year 2020 may have subsided, but it's never really gone away. Now, we hear from ABC's Jim Ryan that it's landing kids in the emergency room, or even worse.
The first challenges were harmless, even positive. The Ice Bucket Challenge raised millions for research into ALS. But the Benadryl Challenge?
This one is boggling my mind.
ABC News medical contributor Dr. Alok Patel says intentionally overdosing on the allergy medication can have serious consequences.
Such as arrhythmias with your heart, confusion, seizures, coma. We've already seen a couple deaths associated with this challenge.
Since the beginning of May, 3 children in Connecticut have died after intentionally taking large quantities of Benadryl. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
That is the latest news, traffic and weather coming up. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. A crash blocking things in Madison, 65 southbound at exits 90A and B. Also another crash on the south side, 40 westbound just before Fessler's Lane. Still trying to clear this wreck up in the Clarksville area, 24 eastbound just past Rossview Road. I'm Jay Harper.
Good morning, everyone. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock, hour number 4 of Nashville's Morning News. You may have picked up that I am not Dan Mandis. I'm Brian Wilson, filling in for Dan Mandis. He's going to be back on Monday. He's at the beach. And Joan Jones will join us at 8:35 this morning. Joan is in for Chris Hand, who's also taking vacation time. It's a game of musical chairs here at Super Talk 99.7. So it's Brian Wilson Coming to you from bucolic Watertown. Bucolic Watertown is where my studio is located. Got Jay Harper, who, by the way, I don't know if Jay, if you can hear me or not, but Jay's been really, really, really busy out doing sports reporting and announcing this past weekend. So he's working in a sleep deficit situation, but he's in. Good morning to you. And Sam's pushing the blinky buttons. We got a lot of ground to cover. I want to talk about the midterm elections. And I'm going to start by taking a look at, well, what's going to happen with Congress. Okay. So all of the House up for re-election. 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election. Very important. And traditionally, as you've heard me say many times, the party in power traditionally does not do well in the midterm election. And we were really concerned about how we were going to do, this side was going to do in the House and Senate, given the fact that we were in the middle of a conflict with Iran and gas prices were high and people weren't feeling particularly good about the economy. Now that's all put away, apparently. Gas prices will be coming down. They're already starting to come down dramatically. And the question is, how are we going to fare? Here's what I know. According to Real Clear Politics, average of polls, excuse me, I'm sorry, average of polls, right now in the Senate, their average says that Democrats will pick up 45 seats in the midterm, Republicans would have 47, and there are 8 toss-ups. You got to have 50 to have control of the Senate, plus the vice president, to break ties. So we need to pick, in addition to the relatively safe 47 seats, we need to pick up 3. We need to pick up 3 out of 8. That's where we are. My sense of it is we can do that. My sense of it is we'll be able to get that part of it straight out. So I think the Republicans will maintain the Senate, especially now that prices will be coming down. The question is the House of Representatives. Now, it is not uncommon in a midterm election for the party in power to lose 20 or 30. Obama lost 60 seats when he hit his midterm election, but it doesn't look like it's shaping up quite that way. Generic congressional question it's a question that's asked time and time again by pollsters. All kinds of different polls out there that ask this question. Just generically, are you going to vote for somebody who's a Republican or somebody's going to vote as a Democrat in the upcoming election? Traditionally, you would expect these numbers would be really bad for Republicans. Not so bad, though. Not really so bad. On average, and there are a couple of them that are sort of outliers that really sort of mess up the averages here, but I think the average is, according to Real Clear Politics, they take all of these polls and average them together, and they say that on average, the Dems have almost a 6-point advantage over Republicans. Now, that is not great. Certainly, I've seen worse. Over the course of my career, I've seen these polls look really grim for Republicans or for the party in power. This isn't that grim. And so if the economy is better and people perceive that the economy is better, it's going to be a pretty close election. It may not be the route that Democrats are hoping for. They may well take back the House because the margins are so slim in the House, but I don't think they're going to get both. The problem is when you have one House and you control it, basically what you get is gridlock. You wonder why Trump's been pushing so hard to do a number of things early in his administration, because you don't have a lot of time when you're coming into office. When you're in office, you have a limited amount of time. This one's different because the first term and the second term were separated by the Biden years, but so it's not really the same as it has been in the past. But I really do believe that we'll probably hold on to the Senate. Probably, I don't know, the House is an open question, but it's not going to be the route. Doesn't matter. If you control the House, you can really slow things up. And that's why Trump has been trying to accomplish so much in the first part of his second term. So there is that. Some other stuff going on with relations to the midterm. Well, let's talk about beyond the midterm elections. Who's going to be the choice for president on the Republican side of the equation? I think there are two major candidates here. One of them is Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, who is revered within the Trump White House. Trump really loves this guy, and he's doing a great job. He's doing great jobs. He's got so many jobs he can't even keep up with it all. And so his name pops up, but he has said for the record that if J.D. Vance, the vice president, decides that he's going to run, that Marco Rubio says, I will be the first person to endorse him. So the question then becomes, if it's J.D.'s call, where is J.D.? From Newsmax. Vice President J.D. Vance said his wife, Usha, and he will decide after November's midterm election whether he will pursue the Republican presidential nomination in 2028, telling CBS Sunday Morning that his focus remains on serving in the Trump administration rather than planning a future campaign. Vance says he expects President Donald Trump to support whatever decision he ultimately makes regarding a possible White House run. I have no doubt that the President of the United States is going to be very supportive of anything that I ultimately decide to do, but we really just haven't talked about what that thing will be. Vice President sought to downplay speculation about his political future, saying he's not actively weighing a presidential bid while carrying out the duties. I'm not sitting around figuring out whether I'm going to run for president. He said any decision about seeking the GOP nomination would come after discussions with his family following the midterms. So maybe midterms are in November, maybe by Christmas, maybe the first of the year, next year, we'll get some kind of sense from J.D. Vance whether he wants it or whether it's going to be Marco Rubio. I think it's one of the two. I really do. That's the way it's been. The good news is we've got so much talent out there. So much talent. Here's what Newsmax said about people who are, if it's not going to be Vance, what are the other names for the presidential election in 28? They say other names frequently mentioned by GOP insiders include Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, President Hegseth. To think that I knew somebody who could become president. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, and some people are big on the idea of conservative commentator Tucker Carlson, but I think his, how do I want to put this? His star may be fading a bit in some circles. A lot of people still like Tucker Carlson. Quite frankly, I think some of the things that he's been saying of late are just a little out there. Just me. Maybe you feel differently. Here's something else. Well, I'll get into this in just a moment. Right now, at 15 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock, let's take a quick break to look at weather and traffic on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, Chrissy, thank you for that. We're looking for a high today of around, now we're saying 78. Abundant sunshine today. I don't think it gets cloudy about 5 o'clock or so. No rain in the forecast today. Tomorrow, Wednesday, a 40% chance. Let me see what else we got here. Friday, an 80%, Thursday, an 80% chance. So toward the end of the week, Wednesday on, we'll see probably some more rain, but abundant sunshine today, 78. Tomorrow, 83 degrees and partly cloudy skies. Talking about the midterm elections, let me get this in real quick, and then I want to move on to something else. DHS Chief Mullins is refusing to rule out that ICE might show up at the polls in the midterm elections. And the Democrats are losing their ever-loving minds. What, ICE is going to... Well, why would they do that? Well, because they want to make sure that the people who are voting are not illegal aliens. Because people who are not citizens of this country are not supposed to vote in federal elections. Sorry. I don't know what your problem is. So what if they show up? You know, if there's nobody there who shouldn't be voting, then it's not a problem. And Democrats say, oh, there's nobody who nobody, does this. Nobody goes out and votes illegally. Well, then there's not a problem, is there, if ICE happens to show up? Just saying. Before we get into our conversation with Joan Jones and the whole gang about what's going on in the world around us, I want to get this in. This is a big deal. Tren de Aragua has been bringing drugs into this country for some time now. One of the top leaders of Tren de Aragua has been killed in a U.S. military strike. This according to Donald Trump. Hector Rustenford Guerrero Flores, known as Nino Guerrero, was credited with transforming a Venezuelan prison gang into a transnational operation with tentacles stretching through large swaths of Latin America, the United States, even across the Atlantic to Spain. He was listed as the most wanted fugitive by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He was killed in a swift and lethal kinetic strike, Trump announced Friday evening on Truth Social. His post included a video showing a green roof building disappearing under a cloud of billowing smoke caused by a massive explosion. Our strike was coordinated closely with our friends in Venezuela, with whom we are working very well. So that happened. The CIA provided intelligence for the operation per a senior administration official. During the operation, clashes occurred with members of these criminal structures, resulting in the death of Hector Rustenford Guerrero Flores, or as he is known, Nino Guerrero. Southern Command Commander General Francis Donovan said the joint operation had targeted a Tren de Aragua compound. This was all founded inside a prison in Venezuela, and had been bringing drugs to our country for some time now. We have a war on drugs, and we should go after these cartel people in a huge way. We really, really, really should. And so I'm glad to see it. And again, and isn't it amazing the relationship that we have now developed in Latin America, in Venezuela, a country that a short time ago was not looking out for the best interests of this country. We seem to have a very good relationship. We seem to have brought them into the world of nations. Venezuela is now a place that can prosper thanks to what has happened, and now we've gotten the top leader, one of the top criminal targets in America, is dead after a kinetic strike in Venezuela. Trump administration, by the way, as long as we're talking about immigration issues, has tracked down 146,000 unaccompanied migrant children that were lost during the Trump years. More than 475,000 children trafficked into the U.S. under Biden, 300,000 still unaccounted for. The Biden administration, so many things that we're just beginning to learn about what they were doing. And they weren't paying attention to the most important thing, it seems to me, when they opened up the borders for political reasons. We'll call it 21 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The president on his way now to the G7 summit. Also, we'll have your morning money news. That's coming up at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
27 minutes now past the hour of 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair for Dan Mandis. You're listening to Nashville's Morning News. Dan returns on Monday. I'll be here all the way through Thursday. We were talking about the situation with immigration and illegal immigration. And look, if you live in Nashville right now, if you're within the sound of my voice and you live in Davidson County, Nashville, and you're upset about the fact that your taxes are going through the roof, maybe you should pay a little attention to how the city is spending your taxpayer dollars. Metro Nashville confirmed on Friday that it has received a request filed by the Tennessee Star to get public records about nearly $1.5 million in proposed grants that are going to the Tennessee Immigration and Refugee Rights Coalition and Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors. Both support illegal aliens living in the volunteer state. 80% of Americans are against the idea of illegal immigration. I don't know what it is in Davidson County because it's a weird place, weird politics in Davidson County, but I have a feeling it's probably pretty high that a lot of people who live in Nashville proper do not want to see their taxpayer dollars spent like this. I mean, you know, businesses are being run out of business in this town because of the taxes are so high. And where is the money going? To grants like this one for $735,000 to Turk and $718 to TNJFON. That's outrageous. You know, I can tell you, I could never live in Davidson County. As much as I love Nashville and I love going to Nashville and I participate in things that happen in my center city, I could never live there. I would be too outraged at how they were spending my taxpayer dollars. I'd be angry all the time. I'm angry now, and I don't even live there. If you live in Tennessee, if you live in Davidson County in Nashville, Tennessee, and you're upset about your taxes and you think that you're paying too much in taxes, it's running people out of business, it's running people out of their homes, understand where the money that they take from you, your hard-earned taxpayer money, is going to support illegal immigration. Are you for that? I don't think so. Hey, in a minute, we'll be joined by Joan Jones. Everybody will crash the board. We'll have a good old discussion about whatever crosses our beady little minds. But right now, time for the news with Jay Harper at 8:30 on Super Talk.
It is 8:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories, a weather forecast, and another traffic report are upcoming. President Trump, he is on his way to the G7 summit in Geneva, Switzerland, and he's got an Iran war peace deal in hand. ABC's Rachel Scott, she is in Geneva with the latest.
The president did not consult our European allies before waging war in the Middle East, but he still wanted them to get involved in this conflict. Many of them just flat out refused. But overnight, we are hearing from our European allies who are welcoming the news of a possible breakthrough in this conflict. French President Emmanuel Macron saying this could lay the groundwork now for more comprehensive negotiations on peace in the Middle East. France, of course, is hosting the G7 summit.
So what exactly are the terms of this peace deal? ABC's Martha Raddatz helps answer that question.
In addition to reopening of the strait, this initial agreement, according to a senior administration official, leads to the dismantling of the Iranian nuclear program, leads to the United States destroying and removing enriched uranium from Iran, calls for inspections to ensure a long-term commitment and that it's long-term enforceable. And Iran gets rewarded economically only if they meet the obligations under the deal.
We now turn to the market numbers report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. They are online at beaconcm.com. With the latest, here is Jim Ryan.
Stock futures surged overnight after President Trump posted on social media that an agreement had been reached to end the war between the U.S. and Iran. The Pakistani prime minister says a formal signing will happen Friday in Switzerland. The possibility that the Strait of Hormuz might fully reopen, unclogging a major oil source to the world, has pushed crude prices down. GasBuddy and AAA both have pump prices nationally hovering around $4 a gallon this morning. Surging consumer prices and rising inflation might actually have a silver lining for retirees. One independent Social Security and Medicare policy analyst expects next year's Social Security cost of living adjustment to rise by 4.7%. And some luxury watches are disappearing forever. Reuters says several models from brands like Omega and Tag Heuer are being melted down when they're sold. The gold in the watch is worth more than the watch itself.
That is the latest news. We've got traffic and weather coming up. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. About 30 minutes ago, we had a report in Robertson County of an injury crash. This would be I-24 eastbound just past exit 19. In Williamson County, a crash now. 65 northbound as you approach Cool Springs Boulevard. Also in Rutherford County, just east of Murfreesboro, this would be in Christiana. 24 westbound coming toward Nashville, just before exit 89, a crash. I'm Jay Harper.
It's 8:38, Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson we got musical chairs going on here. I mean, all kind. Let me play some musical chairs music here. The happy organ. This is because I am in for Dan Mandis, and Jay Harper is in for Joan Jones, and Joan Jones is in for Chris Hann. Sam's in his right place, but he's the only one this morning that's in his right place, if not in his right mind.
And Brian, next week, I'll be in for Ken Weaver.
Oh.
Wow.
So it just never stops.
Next week, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm filling in for... I'm going to stop this. Hey, everybody grab a seat. There we go. I'm filling in for Matt Murphy down the path.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So I got that word just the other day. So anyway, yeah, it's everybody's got to take some vacation time, and I keep running into people, and they say, "I heard you the other day. I thought you were retired. Well, I'm tired, but I don't know if I'm retired. But I'm glad to be here. Joan, you're coming in a few moments to be in, as I said, for Chris and
what a fortuitous time to be filling in for somebody on a talk show. It's crazy how much is happening in the world, and especially right here in the U.S. And it's just you couldn't have a better time to do a talk show.
Yeah, no, an embarrassment of riches this morning as you look at, we can talk about Iran, we can talk about, what's going on politically in this country, just so much. It's an embarrassment of riches is the only term I can come up with. There's a lot of stuff that we can chat about. And I know you'll do a great job. We'll talk more about what you're going to have in the show in just a bit. I'm curious, did you see the UFC event on the White House lawn yesterday?
So I saw some of it. I did decide to, take off and go to bed before the main card, I think they call it, the main event took place. But I did see, I think, the first two fights and all the pomp and circumstance beforehand, which was really what I wanted to see. And I was not disappointed for a second.
Yeah, apparently quite the event. I got to be honest, I'm going to go back and watch some of it. I didn't get a chance to watch it but a lot of people love it. And Sam had a moment that he wants to share with us that he really liked about the event.
I thought it was hilarious. There were some gentlemen giving some great speeches after their victories, and Josh Hokett was the underdog in his heavyweight bout against Derek Lewis, who is the knockout champion, most knockouts in UFC history. Lewis had 34 pounds on Hokett, 2 inches of reach, 2 inches of height. After thanking our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, this is what Josh Hokett had to say to the world.
And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?
Oh, my goodness.
So as you could imagine, the left is losing their ever-loving minds this morning.
And Joe Rogan is standing there holding the microphone like, did he just say that?
Only in America, ladies and gentlemen, only in America. Well, apparently quite the thing. It was controversial, but I had a story, I don't have it at my fingertips right now, about the fact that there have been a lot of unusual things that have actually taken place on the south lawn of the White House over the years. Teddy Roosevelt used to have boxing matches.
Yeah.
And he would say, look, we're going to put up a ring, we're going to have a boxing match, but the boxing matches featured Teddy Roosevelt.
Right. Didn't he get seriously hurt or something, and that's why they stopped?
Actually, he lost the sight in one eye, and they had to stop it because some boxer actually injured the sitting president of the United States and took out his left eye.
That's insane.
It is insane.
So all of these
it's not unusual.
Events were not professional sporting events. So this was the first time that it was a professional, licensed sporting event that occurred on the lawn of the White House.
Right. Do you have a problem with it? I just kind of, it's Trump's 80th birthday. It's a big birthday celebration. It comes as a sort of the kickoff to the big 250th celebration we're having this summer. So I don't have any problem with it. There was
so much wonderful patriotic events that happened in the course of this. The eagle, did you see that? The eagle that landed on the woman's arm, and then everybody's chanting USA, USA. That was at the weigh-in, I guess, on Saturday. When the national anthem was being sung, and I don't know who that man was, but boy, did he belt it out, and it was wonderful. And then the Thunderbirds appeared right at the right time.
The Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels.
Yes, and the Blue Angels. I mean, you couldn't have made a better patriotic event than what happened on the lawn of the White House yesterday.
Oh, and they had ads, so it was streamed on Paramount. And they had a lot of, it wasn't propaganda, but it has a lot of advertisements celebrating U.S. history. They had a lot of recruiting stuff going on for the military. It kind of just made you feel red-blooded, want to go outside and shoot your handgun type of stuff.
Yes. There was also one of the main sponsors, I don't know if you caught this, but one of the main sponsors of the event was Bud Light. And, of course, that conjures up all the images of Dylan Mulvaney in his bathtub with bubbles and, all that weak male pansy stuff that occurred in the last administration compared to the dripping with testosterone and just amazing maleness that is the UFC
contrast the event with Biden on the White House lawn where he looks like he's in a trance and there's some guy in a dress with dancing boobs nearby, and compare and contrast that with what we saw. I mean, to me, America. I'm all for it. America. I'm for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I think, listen, I'm excited about this 4th of July. I truly am.
Well, Brian, this UFC fight, there were folks in Virginia that were suing over this thing. I mean, that area better than any of us. I mean, why would folks in Virginia be suing over that UFC thing? I mean,
I don't know. I heard that a pilot filed a complaint about that gigantic claw, which is the lighting grid.
Just too high or something?
So I know that they were complaining about how bright it was.
Okay.
As you come down the Potomac River, the flight, you either have, on any given day, depending on which way the wind is blowing, you have planes either coming down the Potomac River to land at Reagan National, or you have planes departing Reagan National and flying up the Potomac River outside of as they're leaving to go to other communities. So there's always planes there, and it's not that far from the White House. And apparently, some pilot complained.
Yeah. Okay. And the neighbors were complaining because they could see the lights and they could hear the noise. And it was, they called it ugly. The claw was ugly.
And I love what Trump said. He said, look, the Eiffel Tower was supposed to be temporary. I think we may just leave this on the lawn. He's just, and when you think about it, there are things that have happened in America that were supposed to be temporary. The Eiffel Tower is a good example of it. Even here in Nashville, our what is it? Our Acropolis.
Parthenon.
Not Acropolis. Parthenon. The Parthenon was supposed to be temporary.
Oh, was it?
Yep.
Yeah, if you read the history of the thing, it's fascinating. I went over there, and when I first came to Nashville, one of the things I would do is let's go to the Parthenon. I want to see, it's the Athens of the South. That's what they say. I always thought that was Athens, Georgia, but I could be wrong. But anyway, it's the Athens of the South. And I went there, and I found out the history of the thing is it was put together for a centennial, I think the centennial celebration, or either the 100 or the 150th.
I think it was it not for the World's Fair first?
Yeah, maybe so. But it was done temporarily, and it was made literally out of materials because it wasn't like hay bales. A lot of it was hay bales. And it was just a temporary structure that was put up there to look like, a Greek building. And then they said, this is so popular, why don't we make it permanent? And so they began raising money. And they built a permanent structure. They took down the temporary structure and built a permanent one there. And then just before they opened it, it was hit by a tornado and destroyed. And they had to do it again. That's true.
So the other thing about this event, people are going to come out and say, it was an embarrassment. It was gross, all this stuff. There were 80,000 people just in the park behind the event center. And the fighters were saying that they could hear those fans all the way in underneath whatever it was called. the lighting structure, the claw.
Yeah. The claw,
They could hear them in the octagon under the claw from all the way over there. People were excited. It was awesome. Like Joan said, dripping with testosterone.
Bud Light, again, going back to the Bud Light thing, they were sponsoring. So some of the posts, I don't know, that were around the staging area were adorned with Bud Light on those staging areas. Well, somebody captured a picture of blood all over the Bud Light stanchions.
No.
And I thought, man, we're back. We're back. Somebody bloodied up Bud Light, and it couldn't be more symbolic of where we are right now.
Bud Light needs to macho up its image after some of the things that happened, and they glommed onto this pro-American red, white, and blue, real testosterone, as you said, just something was oozing with testosterone because they have some image issues that they are still trying to overcome.
Oh, come on, that's toxic masculinity.
Yeah, let it be as toxic as you want it to be. I as a woman like it. I like my men. Burly, big, handsome,
Why, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Joan, seriously, my wife, same thing. I mean, we have these discussions.
That's
toxic masculinity.
Yeah. That's
but yeah, my wife, she feels the same way, Joan.
Yeah. I mean, what I think red-blooded American women like men who are going to be strong for them, protect them, open the doors for them. I don't know a single woman who thinks that the soy boy model of a man is anything that's admirable at all.
Well, and the respect and the class. These guys are in there cutting each other's faces up, bloodying each other real good, and then they shake hands and hug each other after it's over.
Yeah, they don't look like they have any animus towards one another at all. And I thought that was really remarkable.
Well, but in the time that we have left, and it's not much time, and what is our out time here, Sam, just so that I don't go over?
We'll get a couple of minutes.
Okay, I got a couple minutes. The UFO stuff that came out on Friday, and now there's going to be a UAP task force, and David Grush had this to say about the kinds of UFOs that he's seen. He's seen pictures. David Grush is said to be the most knowledgeable person out there. People who, there's a lot of charlatans, I think, in the UFO world. He's not one of them. He's serious. And he says he has seen crash photos of UFOs that look like this.
A lot of it was lenticular discs. Some was crescent moon shaped. I call it the flattened sunfish. There's a bunch of different morphologies that the U.S. government has recovered, from eggs to discs to crescent moon, boomerang type vehicles, and I got a small smattering sample of that of ones that have landed or crashed on the surface of the Earth.
And people are now saying, well, he's seen the pictures, and that's as far as he has gone in describing what the pictures depict that he has seen that are still classified. Your thoughts?
I'm still waiting for the little green men. The ones with the big.
They're gray, Joan. They're gray men.
I liked green, and they have eyes that are like as big as their heads, right? So, and the skinny long arms.
I got a question for you. They say that there are several kinds of aliens: the large grays, the small grays, the reptilians, and then the Nordics, which are said to be blue-eyed, blonde-haired people that look very Nordic, very, like they're from Norway, and they're tall. And they say that they look so human-like that they are walking among us and we don't even know it. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, who that we know on the national stage could be a Nordic? And I say Ivanka Trump.
Okay. Yeah, she's...
Well, here in Nashville, Pekka Rinne, the famous goaltender for the Predators. Guy 6'6", big, tall. I mean, just what you described. I mean, hey.
He did play out of this world when he was in net.
So
and on that number,
if we take the David model, all we need is a slingshot, a rock, and good aim, and we can take care of them all.
Very quickly, coming up on your show, Joan.
Yeah, we got a lot, of course, to talk about. And today, by the way, the theme is America's Back, baby. We've got President Trump's deal with Iran. We've got the World Cup. We've got the UFC fight. We're going to talk more about that. Also, the president's heading to G7 today. Barely got a minute of sleep. He turned 80 years old, and bam, he takes off in a plane and goes to France. I love the excitement around everything USA right now, and that's what we're going to do to start us off for this week.
Well, the good news is when you're on the plane, you can sleep. He's got a bed there. So, yeah, the rest of them all have to stay awake.
Reporters say he doesn't do any of that on the plane either. So
well, I've heard that as well. Yeah, I've heard that. All right, we got to go. 53 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock on Super Talk.
So where does Israel fall into this announced U.S.-Iranian peace deal? We'll have that story. And we've got storms that have been pounding parts of the U.S. Could some of that stuff be headed here? And a stabbing in South Nashville over a soccer match? Yeah, that's coming up at 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.